4:59. Ordering at 5 o'clock. Welcome to the March 11th, 2025 Snoqualmie Parks and Events Commission meeting. I'm Chair Emily Anderson, and today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the city's website. Thanks for joining us, everybody, even those of us who've had lots of meetings today. I'm tired. Okay, so we're going to start with roll call. So I can just announce it, probably you guys can announce yourselves. I'm present, Emily Anderson.
Paul Swam, Chair, Vice Chair.
Yeah, present.
Yep.
Amanda Frame.
Isn't great. Glad you guys are here. Nobody is absent as far as commissioners go. And then public comment. It doesn't look like anyone has joined us online, but they also have to submit any comment they have in writing ahead of time. And I don't know of anything that we've received. And nobody else is here. So we'll move right along. Okay, we're gonna start with commissioner introductions. Again, it's been a year and we have someone new. So I can start us off. I'm Emily Anderson. I live just at the bottom of the ridge there. I've been in Snoqualmie for 7 years now. I work full time. I have 2 kids, ages 13 and 3, and a golden retriever. And I like to trail run and ski. And I frequent a lot of the local playgrounds because of that 3-year-old.
And I'm Paul. I've been living here since 2011, been on this body since 2014. So I came into this with a urban planning background, and so I kind of look at it through that lens. And I like to bang the drum for trails and a swimming pool at the new YMCA, and I just keep banging that drum. So yeah, happy to get the group fired up again and looking forward to working with you. So.
That's great to meet you both. Amanda Frame. I have lived up here on the ridge for 11 years now, but on the east sides like Issaquah, Sammamish, for the last 20 years. So yeah, very familiar with Snoqualmie. I have 2 kiddos, Madison and Piper, 5 and 6. So Madison is at CVES. I'm just in the Silent Creek neighborhood up in Snoqualmie Ridge. And similarly, like I just wanted to join this commission because I love the community. I love all of the new things that have been going in around the parks and the investments that the city is making in the community and parks and trails. And yeah, I frequent the parks very often here. I can tell you all the parks by the color name because that's how my kids describe them.
Yeah. Would you guys mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Just start briefly.
So I'm Jeff Hamlin. I am the Works and Public Works Director. Been with the city for about, I don't know, 8 years, I guess now. Been the director here for, well, a year. And then some, kind of as interim for a long time. I've wore a bunch of hats in the Public Works Department. So I used to be the city engineer. Was an engineer before that. And I don't know what else to tell you other than, we're kind of looking forward to getting this one back together and trying to figure out what it is that how we're gonna utilize this group, what we're gonna do with this group and try to get something, highly productive out of it.
Sounds good.
I'm Nicole Beatty, community liaison. I'm in the communications department, but I've been in administration, I've been in community development. I was briefly in the Parks and Public Works department. I've been in government employee for a long time. I actually have a Parks and Recreation. I worked in Parks and Recreation department for about 13 years. So I kind of have information on that. Sorry, I'm tired. The time change and long meeting. And so for the city, I do community outreach events, economic development, arts commission, a little bit of everything.
Every event you can think of. You guys is basically.
If it's used with city event money, then yeah, that's me. But there is events that happen like Red, White and Boom, like that's one that the Church on the Ridge produces. Our city, we produce that along with them with in-kind sponsorship. We support the park rental and staff. There's some events that I don't coordinate and we don't fund, but we fund with staffing and kind, like Snoqualmie is another example of one that will coordinate that our staff works the event.
I just like to credit you for all of them.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, and you're really good about, I see you at events with your kiddos, so.
Yep.
That's fun for me to see faces that I know, because I don't live in this community, so makes it fun.
I'm Dina Dean, I'm the city clerk, and as it relates to this commission, I post the agendas, come and take minutes and do the meeting management of it. For the city, I've been with the city for like 2.5 years now, goes by so fast.
Yeah.
And I don't live in this community either, so I live actually a couple hours away. So I'm not super familiar with all the parks that we have, and we have a lot, way more than my community has. But, which is great, but it's just also a lot to take care of, you know, and maintain and stuff. So I respect the Parks Department for having such a large, responsibility. In terms of what I do for the city, anything that has to do with public meetings, that's me. Anything to do with the legislative, records, that's me, public records. I'm also the unofficial executive assistant to the mayor. So I
think it's official.
anything that has to do with council, if council needs anything, that's me. If the mayor needs anything, that's due. So I also wear a lot of hats, but a lot of it's behind the scenes. So a lot, the public doesn't usually see what I do, which is okay.
I'll wrap it up. I'm Dylan Gamble. I'm the capital program manager for the Public Works Department. I used to be in planning at this city, so I've been here at the city for not quite 6 years, but kind of close. And let's see, I do all sorts of different things. So I did the PROS plan, which is kind of our long range plan for the Parks and Trails program. So that's a big aspect of this group. And then I also manage a lot of capital projects and programs, which is things like the parks replacement or trails replacement or Sandy Cove, bank stabilization, or the river trail, or the other 2 new playgrounds that we just installed, the Riverview and Centennial. So it was pretty much, pretty much how to get those done. So yeah, lots of things related to parks and the planning of this group. So yeah, but mostly just work with Jeff. I work out of Public Works, not in this building anymore.
Okay.
It's great to meet you all.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna move to our first item of regular business, which is to approve the agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
For the minutes, the agenda. 'Cause you
No,
got the
agenda
minutes
first,
from-
then
Agenda and then,
Okay,
So regarding
yes,
the agenda, I don't know if it should happen in this meeting. I was gonna suggest maybe the next one, but I wanted to throw it out there. We are in a new year, and do we need to do elections for officers?
oh, I hadn't even thought about that. For some reason, I thought it was 2 years. Is it 1?
I don't know. I thought every year we retooled
I have to,
that.
I'd have to look at the handbook to be, you know, refresh my memory.
So maybe we can,
Could we table that until our next meeting?
until the next
You guys
meeting, to
comfortable?
figure out if we actually need to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, but I just thought I'd throw. that
No,
out
that's
there.
good to know.
It's been 30 years. Anyhow,
Okay, so let's bring that up at the end for future discussion, items of interest. But as the agenda stands for now under regular business, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Either of you,
make a motion to approve the agenda.
great.
Second
Would you
motion.
second? Great, thanks. So it sounds like there's no further discussion on that, and all those that approve say aye. Aye, here we are. So the motion passes unanimously and the agenda is approved. Next would be the council liaison report. Councilmember Keith Benson is not present. And it doesn't sound like anyone's speaking for him. Right, so we're gonna move right along. Now is the time to approve the minutes. Dated March 18th, 2024, so exactly a year ago.
I move to approve those minutes.
Okay,
Second that motion.
okay, great.
I'm like, I'm still reading them.
For meeting minutes we're here for.
Yeah.
Do you want
I can
to-
second it as well if
Want to take a
needed.
minute to read it before we?
do we want to? Do you want to review it for
I've
us?
probably read these minutes online.
I read them already as well,
Okay.
so.
I was there, so I remember pretty well. Don't need to review it.
It's supposed to be accuracy.
Okay, so motion by
There's a
Commissioner
grumbling.
Swan, seconded by Commissioner Frame to approve the minutes dated March 18th, 2024. And then if there are no further questions, all of us who approve say aye. Aye, great. And then the motion passes unanimously to approve minutes from last March. Okay, moving on to regular business, new business. The first thing on the agenda item is one that I submitted is for a new cricket field in Snoqualmie. There I was at no vote and I ran into someone who is high up on the chain here who suggested that this would be something we could talk about, and I thought it was a great idea. So there's been local residents who can't compete competitively in the local cricket world without having a home cricket field. And that they're looking for us to potentially recommend to the city staff to convert one of those fields to a home cricket field, which I think is great. Be all inclusive. I don't know if we'll figure it out tonight because it seems like there's some steps in place and I think we're gonna rely pretty heavily on Jeff and Dylan here, but I thought at least would be nice to talk about it and introduce it so we can see what's feasible and what might not be.
Yeah, so Phil Bennett, who's our local Englishman and familiar with cricket, is also deputy director for Public Works. Met with, there was an organization, I don't remember what the name of the organization was. Were you involved with that?
Yes,
Yeah,
I believe it's the Snoqualmie Wolves.
yeah, that's right. That's what it
That's
was.
the name of the cricket team.
So, yes, so there is yes, Snoqualmie Wolves is a nonprofit sports group located in Snoqualmie and they are more of the youth. And trying to bring the youth interested in cricket through Snoqualmie and I know they have a goal to have one of the players from Snoqualmie represent, now I can't think of it's like Olympic or national, but go far in the cricket world. And then a lot of the men, a lot of the parents in the community are also cricket players and play for a league that is considered like the masters. So they're old,
They're
they're like
competitive.
in their forties, but I mean, they're like, I guess the comparison would be like masters golf or something, but they are competitive,
Competitive cricket.
very competitive. But yeah, I've met with them, Phil's met with them, they've met with Mayor Ross, so there's been conversation, but sorry, Jeff, I said a lot, but it's.
No, that was
Snoqualmie Wolves.
exactly what I was hoping you would say, because you were there.
Okay.
But part of a major part of the discussion was where could we actually put a field? And we're like, well, what do you need? What dimensions do you need for a field? And it turns out that they don't really have exact dimensions on a field. I mean, there's the pitch, which is just a little strip down the center, which, if they could have their way, they would want us to kind of create like a concrete pad in the middle of one of our fields where they could set up their pitch. And like, well, we're not putting a concrete pad in the middle of our field. But, there's other options that are available to do a temporary cricket pitch. So, they've got these mats that they can roll out and, set up their wickets and do their, pitch. But then are the fields large enough for them to actually play? And apparently we have two fields that we think are acceptable. This, one of those was it Jeannie Hansen,
Centennial,
and the other one was Centennial, yeah. And we like the Centennial option probably a little bit better. The kids play football and there's a little bit of soccer being played out there from time to time and baseball fields, of course, but it's a little bit more wide open and it's probably a little bit better accommodations for them as far as size. Jeannie Hansen, we have like a spare field out there, a grass field that they could play in.
We went down to the right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The
I've seen
non-turf
them
one.
there,
right.
The non-turf one.
the non-turf one.
Yeah.
That's actually where I met them. I was
Okay.
setting up for a movie in the park and they were there and
Yeah,
I was like, this is my field, I rented it for the movie and then we just had a conversation because they kind of just show up and try to use, I mean,
It's play.
They're not, they show up, if no one's there,
Yeah.
they will, if no one has a reservation, they will practice and play. But that is what led to the conversation of like, how can we get regular time?
What time of year do people play cricket? Like what is the?
They play year round at
Yeah, it
the
seems like
right
it's year
ground.
round,
Yeah.
yeah. We did have a run-in with that group too, cause they were up there and the soccer league had the fields reserved and there was some altercation and we had to talk to them about that. So I think they understand, but they would like us to,
This is a youth group?
these were the adults, these were
So this
we
is
had
for an adult league, right?
Yeah.
But they want it for both.
They want it for both.
And there's a way to sign up and kind of like put in your time, that's what I'm looking for, to request.
Reservations?
Yeah, thank you, to reserve a field,
Fields.
and they haven't done that,
They didn't do that,
okay,
right?
Just like Nicole did for movies in the park,
Yeah, yeah,
there's a way to do it, just
Mhm.
the same.
And there is a precedence, there is a procedure that the Parks Department uses to reserve fields for the soccer groups and the baseball groups and different leagues. And we have a process in place. The cricket group isn't recognized as a league that we would, at this point, that we're like part of that scheduling. I think that's, if I'm speaking wrong or out of.
No, that's
justice,
right,
yeah.
it's just, so we said
We
that
do
we would
both.
address it with the Prost plan,
Mm-hmm.
which is now complete. And I think we have identified those fields. And I think, I don't know if we reached out to them to get them started on it, kind of maybe waiting for them to kind of come back.
What happened with Riverview? I know Phil took them over there, I thought Riverview was.
Teeny tiny little.
But
It's
they, I
not-
thought they, not for a game, but I thought that
Kids.
Phil thought that would be a park that
I
they
think
could
that was
be
fine.
to practice on, to kind of have that, that was the last I'd heard.
I didn't think it was a good fit based
Okay.
on future use.
You were
of
the
that park.
dreams washer then,
Yeah,
just
yeah, I
kidding.
ruined
Balls
all
in the
that.
street.
But we have,
balls in the
Centennial's very large, you could
Yeah.
handle
Fencing
parking
it,
and things like that,
Yeah.
and then there's also. Riverview, it's not easy to see this, but there's a lot of topography going on at Riverview and it's not graded. And I think it'd be better, it'd be easier for us to maintain an additional use like the cricket pitch. On a field that's graded and maintained, rather than adding it to an unfielded area, so
Yeah.
I support the dream.
You did.
Is there any additional maintenance that would be required by the city
Yeah.
for this field? Cause I know at Centennial Fields, like I know you have the 2 baseball pads that you manage and keep all nice for the games that are coming up, but that backfield. I mean, I walked through that before with my kids and it's not necessarily, there's moleholes back there sometimes or, you know.
Elk.
Elk
Yeah.
walking through it, yeah.
There's 3, the 2 that are closest to the parking lot get used heavily, the one that's further back gets
Yeah.
used.
Field 3 gets.
Yeah, it-
Practice facility.
Yeah, I think so, and I think for T-ball or something like that, I can't remember, and then there is the youth football, which uses the entire thing.
Oh,
And the middle school cross-country team uses it too now,
And they run around the circle,
they run through
they run right down the middle.
yeah.
They don't tell us about that, they just do whatever they want. Yeah,
Thank you,
so-
Park Ambassador, for letting us
Yeah.
know.
Right, but this is why we like the park, cause it's
Yeah.
a big field.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
And it has adequate parking, so handling kids and families and things like that. I know they play at Toll, is it Toll? No.
One of the parks in North Bend has, I think, some.
Yeah.
Permanent or semi-permanent
Yeah.
things for cricket, but
They
the
move-
demand on the east side is greater than what Toll can provide, and the demand is great across the east side, so they are looking for additional fields, so.
I was gonna
Yeah,
ask
Jordan
where
might
else
be
they're
good too.
playing right now, cause I know Marymore,
Marymore.
who has historically had it.
Redmond has worked with them through I used to work for that city, we had similar conversations probably a decade ago. And now Perigo Park, if you're familiar at all with the parks, that cricket uses that, I believe the city of Bellevue also, and I think the city of Issaquah. All of the east side parks have made limited schedules or accommodations.
so there's kind of 2 things we're looking at, number 1, what field makes sense, what part
Feasibility,
makes sense,
yeah.
and then how to.
Maintain it.
Well, and how to make them kind of legit, like the league, to have them have access to reserving,
I think they just need to reserve it.
oh, they just need to do it, oh,
Cause we've now identified 2 of the parks, and we'll have to figure out what it takes to maintain it.
yeah,
Cause there's a couple approaches, like Jeff was mentioning, they want concrete or, I don't think it's quite concrete, it's like hard packed kind of like baseball.
They
fields, it's
play,
like
they can
different,
do a
yeah.
play alley or whatever.
But we could also do just like really short mow in sections, I've seen that, but it apparently gets beaten up and worn out. So there's a couple
They
of
have to put
options.
wickets in the ground and that involves
Some, it's not too bad though.
making a hole.
There's stuff like that that happens
Yeah.
on the fields too, but
Yeah.
Could you look like at a neighboring city to see what they've done, like how you're saying like Issaquah or Redmond?
yeah.
To see like what they've had to do
The
with the
season
field?
The side view's just been ad hoc,
Yeah.
so they just went out there and did it, they brought their own mower and everything. Side view just didn't flag it. And that's not exactly the same strategy that we wanna approach it as, just letting them do whatever they want in the fields, cause we have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Some of the things.
But if you looked at like a neighboring city to see like what it is that it actually would, like the installation of what they're asking for, you're saying like clay or concrete. Like what would that look like on the field, how would that impact any of the other sports that are being played?
And what that costs.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wanna, if we don't need to do anything, then we'd rather not do anything because, you know, that's maintenance, right? And that's the thing that we have the hardest time with, you know, we're understaffed as it is, just to keep up with what we got. Right, and so, and it comes down to that level of service argument. You know, how much does the city wanna pay to support this? You know, are they willing to take on add another staff member in Parks Group? And, you know, one staff member includes that staff member, any equipment truck. You know, so it costs, you know, $150,000 a year to keep another employee. So we're limited on how many staff we can have. And we can't keep up with what we got. So whatever it is that we bring on has to be able to be maintained. And so if it's just, you know, mowing the grass and keeping a field nice and letting them use it, and if they can bring out their own carpet or whatever it is to create that alley, then that's great. If we have to, well, we don't want a concrete strip down the middle of any of our fields, because that's just not really, doesn't work with all the other sports. If it's a clay alley, you know, kind of like a baseball field, well, that's gotta be maintained as well. Someone's gotta weed it and drag it and maintain it, so we'd rather not do that if we don't have to. And those guys seem to be able to play anywhere, so I don't know that we need to. So, you know, we haven't really advanced that until, you know, somebody makes a request. But, you know, I think it's generally good business for the city to accommodate, and so if there's some desire to have a pitch constructed in the middle of one of our fields, we will certainly do it.
And the post plan identified those two parks.
Right.
Okay, specifically for cricket?
Yeah, specifically for the additional use of the existing fields, but one that didn't impact the use as the field exists now, does that make sense? So Jeannie Hansen, it's a soccer field, the grass one is.
Yeah.
And so as long as it doesn't remove the ability for that building to use as a soccer field, then it's not impacting. Obviously, you can't play the same sports or two different sports at the same time, in the same place, but as long as, you know, one day it could be a soccer field, a week later it can still be a cricket field, and go back and forth.
Or the next day it can be a cricket field. Right?
Yeah, or whatever the schedule demands,
Yeah, and then probably just the same at Centennial, as long
which
as they
has
can.
soccer actually on the other side.
Okay,
And that,
and
that
football.
fourth quarter is actually, yeah, for football, they use it kind of differently, I think they realign it they bring things out of the storage and they bring their own like running circuits and stuff like that. It's kind of like a weird event thing, but they don't use the fields per se the same way. They just kind of take advantage of the fact that there's a big grassy baseball field and running laps or make smaller fields for kids. Cause it's like a youth neighborhood, both sides. And so, yeah, that's kind of, when we looked at this before, it was always like those mats, like laying down a mat could be brought out. I've seen them, we looked this
Yeah,
up
can you
just to
like
make sure.
take down the mat?
They can take down the mat, I'm sure they don't like them, but I'm sure it's not as cool as like
This is for cricket?
For cricket.
Yeah, and when I've observed it at Perigo Park, that's a turf park, there's no grass, so they are able to do both, but I feel like there could be damage on the turf.
Under turf,
Dick,
they're like the grass that they bring, the fake astroturf,
uh-huh,
yeah, I'm sure they could damage it, but.
yeah, but it's expensive to fix
Yeah,
AstroTurf.
well, you wouldn't
Yeah.
want pounding like stakes into it.
Right, yeah,
But
There's
other
a lot
than
of
that, I
things.
mean, swinging a bat, that's not gonna hurt.
I'd always thought that sometimes there was the damage with the cricket, when the paddle can go down, it can
I think in real grass.
divot,
I bet the
yeah,
astroturf's pretty
but maybe the
strong.
astroturf just kind of bounces back up or
That's
something.
pretty tough.
So that might even be better, okay,
It's like a fiberglass mat usually.
okay, all right.
Interesting, as if you're then banging on the ground.
Yeah.
How it goes.
Yep, so that was my consideration. Now, I don't know where we stand with, would the city be buying this? Is it something they provide and we allow the space for? That's the stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
And then
I guess we can reach
but-
back out to them, find out if they're interested, find out what they need for accommodations. Is kind of where we're at now.
Yeah, you'd want to be clear on that, I think.
So this sounds like it's already kind of in the works. Is there anything that that this commission and commissioners can help with? Or is it just kind of like, hey, nudge, nudge?
But I mean, you could be
Let's work
the
on next steps.
liaison with the,
Support it too,
yeah,
generally.
Okay,
Like right now, saying that you agree with the intent of adding cricket to these, fields as indicated by the pros plan would be. That's step one in a sense, because if you go like, yeah, I don't think this makes any sense,
no,
then we've gone too far then.
Yeah.
But if you all think that it should go, then we now can make the next steps, and then. If you wanna be an ambassador, you'd be doing it based on at least voting or agreeing on that intent.
great, thanks. Thanks for that guidance. I feel like this came up last year. I feel like we talked about disc golf versus kind of cricket fields in the local area.
the disc
Remember?
golf sort.
Yeah, and
There's
we had,
space
the
for-
South Fork has such a nice
Yeah.
big disc golf course.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great idea. I feel like there's a strong cricket presence in the neighborhood and like especially at Jeannie Hansen Park, I've seen them there more than once. But I would vote yes, moving forward with this. How do you guys feel?
I would vote for yes moving forward as long as it meets the maintenance criteria of
Yeah.
the city.
Yeah.
Because what I wouldn't wanna see is fields getting wrecked from it when other uses are expected to play there, so.
And I
Well,
don't like
They
it,
all wreck the fields too.
something like a concrete strip in the middle of
That,
the field where other
that's,
kids are gonna be sliding or, yeah.
I mean, I've watched enough cricket, I don't even understand in my mind's eye how there's so that there.
That's what I was thinking, like in my mind visualizing, like, what is the sport of cricket and like, how are they actually moving and.
It's like a
It's like a
very
running
linear
strip, right,
baseball.
as they go.
Yeah.
It's like baseball, kinda.
Yeah, it's kinda like baseball,
Yeah, but they have the
the pitch.
pitch is in the middle of the oval, right?
Mhm.
The field's oval like,
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't have to be oval, that's kind of the funny thing about it.
The state,
typically,
the main grasses are.
the ball can be hit
pitch is
anywhere,
Square part.
I guess,
Okay.
so, and it's 6 points.
You know what, we should brought Phil to this meeting, cause.
If you look at there's
Oh, there you go.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
guidance
okay.
on what a cricket
So you
pitch
do
looks like.
field, there's 2 layers of field, just like there's for the baseball. There's an
Visual.
infield and an outfield, kinda like that, it's very similar to
Yeah,
baseball.
oval shaped,
Yeah.
sure.
No, that's what you're doing.
Which is-
It's right in the middle,
Since
smack
we have
dab in the
two
middle of
bases.
the oval.
And that's where they kind of pitch
Yeah.
from and bat
Yeah.
from.
And the players are kind of,
Got it, okay,
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah.
I was
Positioned
thinking more
outside
like
on
a-
that.
yeah, it was when I've
Okay.
done my walks around, I kind of, as I'm making the loop, I see what's going on, so yeah, they're in the middle, and then the players, there's nobody. I don't think behind the pitcher, he just pitches out in a way, so.
But there's no risk for injury of somebody at the playground.
They're not pitching.
Recreational immunity,
Okay,
They're
is that how that works?
okay, thank you.
It's one of the reasons why we wanted to
It's a-
sign
It's
up.
not a curveball, it's a
It may be when they rent the park, but they also are aiming for organization is
Or a walk.
cooperating with recreation.
Yeah.
Which is true for all of our playgrounds too.
Yeah.
So if you come and, I don't know, decide to mountain climb on our, one of our things in the recreational world, then you injure yourself as you are using it recreationally, it's.
recreational immunity.
Unless it's like a specific failure of the infrastructure or something like that, but there's a lot to go into, and more or less that's the rule of thumb.
So do you wanna see a formal vote from us, support?
I think that makes sense, cause then
Okay.
that gives us very clear, you guys support it, it's in the plan, we're good to go.
Do we also want?
We don't need any more
What
check-ins.
park We would like,
Yeah, we could recommend a
Preference?
park, and then is there like if you guys can ballpark, a budget, like what would the cost? What's prohibitive and what makes sense as far as cost goes?
What I think makes most sense is that we'll handle that on our side
Yeah.
and we'll scale it up and down depending on what needs the field needs.
Okay, and then we could just approve, I'm just trying to give us guidance like on what we're
Yeah.
approving,
mhm.
right, like.
It-
Well,
Park field anywhere,
It's-
to any cost.
It's
Yeah.
hard to define it right now, because, those fields need continuous maintenance for the
Right.
things that they support now, right? So adding another sport to it doesn't necessarily add significant amounts to it, but it contributes to the general wear and tear of the field, which needs to be upgraded, or it needs to be maintained, so.
Yeah.
I don't know that we can really put a cost to it.
Well, also, Jen, would it be that we're doing the fee study this year on the different fee structures in the departments? And
We're doing a few steps.
so then we would be looking at like all the different leagues, not just to mention other park users that aren't paying for stuff right now,
We
but
would make it consistent.
exactly, so they would be treated like a league, like a baseball league or a soccer league, and inherent is that are some fees that go towards
Right.
having
Covering
this
the
as your
cost,
field, so.
The fees would be consistent.
Yeah, and just so you
Okay.
guys know that
Mm.
there is two types of leagues already with the process, and we would mirror that, but we're also looking at a fee study, which is definitely overdue, which will hopefully help with some revenues.
So a vote of support for Centennial Field, right? That's what you're looking for
Eugene,
with,
Jeannie Hansen
and Jeannie Hansen?
and or, so like which one would we
I think you should
recommend
allow
more?
both, yeah, I think you should allow both and
Oh,
let
okay.
them.
From a city standpoint,
Oh, okay.
obviously, if we can generate revenue from our fields, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
With a caveat that for, what do we wanna say, city staff's judgment on feasibility and maintenance or something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
So I already said it, but yes, I'm in favor of having a cricket field somewhere in the city. I think either park would work, but I just knowing both those parks pretty well, I think Centennial Field makes a lot more sense, it just seems a lot more open.
Mhm.
As far as balls potentially flying different places and people using both those parks are very popular. And then with, recommending it and voting in support as long as it makes sense. It's feasible with maintenance and under budget,
Yeah, with operations.
yeah, operations.
And I would also agree with Centennial, just knowing the demand of Gene Hansen and especially like during the soccer season, just even the impacts of the parking at that park is astronomical. People are parking along the streets because they can't even find a spot
Yeah.
in the parking lot. So I think the impacts would be less on Centennial Field.
I think
They
some other,
wanna be on the ridge though.
They do.
They do, in the meetings I've had with
Their
them,
preference.
they've said like, almost everyone lives on the ridge, and so.
The cricket people wanna be
Yeah.
on the
I
ridge?
think this is too far,
I don't think they think it's too far, they
They
just
just
want
want-
you know, lots of options and they wanna be as close to their own house as they can. And I think they also see Centennial's pretty close to the toll location, and so.
oh, okay.
No.
Is there a way to?
No, I'm shaking my head because to me that just goes back to, Snoqualmie this is the hometown to it's
Yeah.
one city.
Mhm.
And I get that proximity, but it's one city, and I think if the city
Mhm.
is saying, yeah, we wanna make room for you at a park, this is what makes sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would just not limit us
Yeah.
from this meeting.
Yeah,
Yes,
Let
got it.
let the operations side, let be the limiting factor, or the reservations or something like that.
I feel like either one could work. It might be helpful to know more about, you said they play year round, but maybe they'd have to obviously figure out scheduling with the busy soccer season.
Yeah.
Or
Or damage to the
anything,
fields, we try to cycle it out, there's sports that cause a lot of damage to the fields that takes a while to
Mhm.
kind of fix and make it usable again. And Centennial's, that location, isn't just drain like,
It is, you know, it's wet.
Yeah, it's very wet and muddy.
and I think that the Parks Department is gonna do their best to schedule and honor these things, but it's now just adding another group that. The pie's only so big, right? And so there's only I mean, I'm all for it, I don't wanna sound like I'm negative for it, but I think all the groups are gonna have to understand there's gonna be. A push and a pull.
Competing demands.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So should someone make a motion? Or did
I was
you
like, let's
already-
just do it.
I didn't make a motion, I can make a motion to vote, is that what I'm making a motion for? I've heard Commissioner Frame's point of view, have you?
Yes,
Stated your
and I
preference?
wrote something down here, because the motion, we need to throw the specifics into that, don't we?
Yeah, go for it.
I make a motion for this body to support a cricket field at Centennial and or Jeannie Hansen. with city staff managing site feasibility and maintenance. Does that sound?
Great, so that
Yeah.
sums it up well. I
Okay,
second it. Sounds like Commissioner Green does as well. She thirds it.
So all in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
aye,
Okay, good.
Okay. Okay, next on our list of agenda items are communication boards. This is something that I emailed you guys about, these two, back in August, I think, and I just wanted to follow up with it, and I have some visuals in case it's helpful. So communication boards are becoming increasingly, I won't say popular, are necessary. They are, if anyone's familiar with alternative and augmentative communication for kids especially who have like issues with speaking verbally. They're showing up at local parks. I was really excited in August. I went to a triathlon and they had one at the triathlon location. And then I happen to work in a school and we are putting them now in most of the playgrounds, or trying to. Here is a picture of my son with one. So basically
I
they
have seen that
they've-
elementary school in my neighborhood.
yeah, they've got different icons that then have words that go with them. So the idea is for autistic kids or nonverbal kids, right, that they can point to the icon to show meaning. So if they wanna go, they point to the picture that corresponds with go, or stop, or play. And it's like if you've ever seen, maybe you guys haven't, but any nonverbal child, usually you gotta find a different way to have them communicate. And so a lot of times we'll use like iPads that have a system like this, like an app that will work, or for even like smaller kids, like preschool level, you might just use pictures and have them come and bring you the picture. There's a whole, dare I say something, like all-inclusive mentality towards it. So my initial recommendation was to have something like a communication board at the new playground, just to truly be all-inclusive, so that we can really like include the kids who might not be able to verbally say what they want. This is another example. So the one that the elementary school that I work at.
I like it. I think that, we have 2 inclusive playgrounds now, I think. And,
What's the second?
We have one, we have one
Riverview.
with an intent,
yeah,
Okay,
we have one with inclusivity and it's hard, but maybe not, that's physical.
not in every way, but,
Yeah.
there's inclusive elements to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're trying to make our playgrounds more inclusive as we replace them. right?
yeah,
So either adding components or, sections of them which are, all inclusive. I like that. I think those are good. It seems like that's something, you could buy that right off the shelf pretty much.
I was gonna buy them, the reason I haven't yet, is money.
yeah, so I'm not at all, like, I'm just suggesting it. I think it might be something really great that we could consider, and if it's feasible budget-wise. And then if you guys like the idea, could we pinpoint kind of a order of parks that we might recommend or something like this be? Like just off the top of my head, I think definitely one at the new all-inclusive playground, Centennial. I also think the splash pad might actually be a great place to have one, just because it's gonna be a lot of younger kids. There, and then anything else that anybody else kind of wants to recommend?
I have a question.
Yeah.
About itself. Stupid question here. So is the board interactive feature in and of itself, or is it pointing the child to what's at the playground?
So you can get different ones. So the one that had the picture of my son was geared towards outdoor play. So the vocabulary on that board has everything to do with playing or being outside or whatever kind of is relevant for the playground. And then they come in different forms. So there's freestanding ones where you can like build them, like that example with me and my son. I can get the picture up again, where it's basically on 2 frames here and it's kind of bigger and sturdier. They also have ones made out of metal that you can kind of tie onto a fence. They're probably those are the 2 types that I might recommend. They also have like vinyl, but that wears away pretty quickly and that would just be kind of an annoyance because you'd have to continuously, like probably after 3 or 4 months in our weather, you'd have to replace it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand the function of it, if it was just, is the child? Is
It's
it?
not like Connect Four where they're moving
No,
stuff around.
nothing
They're
moves.
just
It's solid.
Usually passes.
Kids could just.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's like, it has things like, I'm hot, or I'm hurt, or I wanna play, or I wanna run, and the kids can touch those
Yeah,
blocks, it's icons. Yeah, it looks like an iPad.
it does, it looks like
It's a bunch of
a
icons.
communication app on an
Yeah.
iPad.
So it's not a
Interactive.
tool
It's
to interact with the rest of the playground, it's an activity in and of itself.
No, it's a way for the kid to communicate with potentially other kids or their caregiver that's there.
Okay,
Cause otherwise the caregiver's often like carrying around a device, trying to
Yeah.
figure out what their child or the
Oh,
child that they're
okay.
with is trying to communicate with.
so it's a general communication device relating to what the child wants to do on the rest of the playground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like
they
an
want to
adaptive.
swing and they.
So they know the word in their mind, but they can't
Okay.
verbalize the word, so they can point to it.
Yes, they see a picture of it
Yeah.
and that's how they
Okay.
can then communicate.
So is the
Yeah,
board
they can say
then customized to the features on the playground?
It can be,
Oh, okay.
so like this one doesn't necessarily have, well, this one doesn't have the features of the playground, I think that would be pretty tricky. But it has vocabulary having to do with what's kind of an option there, like playing, music, it has all the different letters. And then it's got lots of mood, I want a snack. So, and then the ones, for example, like a school would be very different. The ones in like an iPad really wouldn't have anything to do with like outdoor play until you get to like that page that has to do, everything's in categories.
Did they customize those little things?
Yeah,
You
well,
can get a variety of different types.
yeah.
So is it kind of
all
like
different
the,
types.
it's a basic, almost like the form of a curriculum for, like, this is a curriculum, it's not a textbook, I know that, but it's like a tool.
It's a
that they're-
tool.
A tool that in the special needs, I'm not using all the right terms, but in the special needs
Doing great.
education, all teachers would use this or they'd be familiar with it and they're working with the kids or the students to be able to.
Yes,
Okay.
so all teachers who
Fascinating.
work with kids who have special needs
Yeah.
would be familiar with this. They're like really pretty prevalent. The school district I work with, any child coming in who is nonverbal or even struggles with communicating verbally gets an iPad with this type of app on it, so this type of tool to help them communicate. They're awesome, they work
I like
really,
it.
really well.
I like it too.
So I think it would be really nice to have them kind of pop up if we can do
So
that to
tell you my
especially
plan
the-
of attack on it.
Yes, please do,
Like-
you've been trying.
Sounds like there's support in the room.
No, I like the idea, just, it wasn't in the cards at the time, I was doing these other two parks. I didn't know about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, this makes sense, I didn't think about it, but here it is now, and so my thinking has been to address the two new parks that we added, and then the new parks that are coming in with the boards, as we go, adding them to the parks, and not going back necessarily to
The two
parks that are
pieces of
in
boards.
the future to be replaced, we'll just
And
do it then.
SpongeBob.
Yeah, so I only had 4, but I forgot about the splash pad.
Yeah.
Cause I'm not doing it, so, but yeah, so in theory, I guess now
So you're
looking
thinking
at 5.
Riverview, Centennial.
Riverview, Centennial, the 2 new playgrounds we're hopefully gonna work on this year.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to it at the later thing,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you right now.
No jumping ahead.
Not- not-
Yeah.
Can we add it to the Sasquatch?
It's Riverview, sorry,
Okay.
it's a train park?
John.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Go back to
get
train park.
I was just thinking my color.
Time down.
Yeah.
It looks like a
Right,
drive.
Riverview,
You know,
okay,
that's much fun.
great.
2 new ones, and so I was looking
Yeah,
at.
that's watching there last week.
You guys didn't even know how it mounts, but essentially we're gonna, it's a poster board looking thing.
Yeah.
And we can mount it however we want, I
Yeah.
think, I've already talked to Tim about this,
Mm.
and we're just gonna buy steel posts that you can mount to the ground and bolt it to
Okay.
the side.
I was
And
gonna
maybe
ask
double
about
sided.
hardiness from overzealous teenagers that wanna
Steel posts,
pound
steel
on
posts and concrete.
Yeah, the graffiti is the
Yeah,
main
and-
concern.
We have we do this for all of our signs we put in parks, we have a graffiti laminate that we laminate our posters. Works pretty
It
good.
helps.
I'm not as worried about a sign like this as I am other infrastructure graffitis,
That's true.
to be honest.
Okay.
But-
The vandals will
I
attack.
like the Sasquatch, it's a lot harder to, I can't laminate the Sasquatch with this anti-graffiti laminate.
I shake my
It's almost
fist every time I
like
drive
that.
into the city, I
It would
would
be
want to be
very
doing
sad
it
if
in my
it
own
does.
town, so.
No, yeah,
They gonna walk to my neighborhood school playground that
Yeah, we'll
tonight
be
when I get
much
home,
better.
I've been seeing that.
Yeah,
And I
you
just
know.
was like, oh, they got a new feature to the playground, and it's just mounted into,
Yeah,
it's like outside the covered basketball court, like on pavement, you know,
Yeah.
it's just freestanding.
I kinda want ours to look like this.
Without
to
telling
match
you
our
too much
style.
about
I've
city
never seen one,
stuff.
that would be fun.
Lake Washington School District, Rosa Parks.
Yeah,
I'll see you
This
next.
one's like-
I work in Bellevue.
Okay.
How much,
Yeah,
do you know how much they cost?
it's $2,000 basically.
Oh,
And
that's-
they'll have our city logo on it and everything.
And this one looks like it almost has like a plexiglass covering.
It's not,
That way,
it's
that way
not,
Yeah, I'll just laminate it.
Yeah.
Cause the
No,
lamination
I
is
work
really,
in
yeah,
this
it
realm.
works really well.
And we
Just
saw
like
one
us
at
buying
the park, I was like, what, we totally should add one.
Design,
Yeah.
Cause then I can add like the
Yeah,
city
there you go.
logo and
Okay.
some other things.
It looks like, looks
is
great.
there an electronic aspect?
Well, I want it to look
There is-
formal,
Nope,
cause when you
It
make things
shouldn't
look
need to
formal,
be.
people
They-
tend
they
not to
just are
mess
there.
with it. If it's
That's
new,
what
it's
I like.
look nice.
The green,
Is there a way to, is there a way to apply to
Yeah.
the VHSL
Oh.
levy, like RFP, to
I
get
love
funding to be able to
this.
support this? Instead of
Good.
falling under human,
VHSL.
the Veteran Senior Human Services levy, to like get funding under the human services umbrella? To
Maybe,
get something like this, because they've
maybe,
been
but
doing.
you're
that
adding a lot of
recently.
time for me.
love
It would
this.
take forever to
Getting a
add
grant.
stuff, yeah.
Well,
If you guys wanna go after a grant,
Yeah,
that might be
apply.
something, you know, we could give you a task.
Yeah,
If you
I
like.
get emails all the time for the VHSL RFPs that go out, so if I do see
We-
something, I'll. send
I
it
got
out.
one, it's due in the next month and it's called the Healthy Communities.
Yeah.
In King County, the levy, Parks Levy had it.
Yeah.
How do you spell communities again? I don't know if it's relevant.
So are we in an exploratory mode with this right now, and you're looking for a decision from us to?
Should we vote on this
Support.
too?
Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, I don't think you need
I
to
like
vote
it.
on it,
Yeah.
this is already
Okay,
official.
we're ready to do it.
Okay.
I just haven't
It's just
purchased
the
it.
funding.
Mhm.
You know, what, I
Okay.
should just throw it. I sit on this board.
And
After,
then the
after we pay for the
prioritizing.
shelter at
Mm.
the splash pad, if there's any other money left over, then we can use that,
It might
Jeff,
go
to
in
do
there.
Okay.
the thing.
I think I just like the idea of the splash pad because number one, there should be a ton of younger kids there, but also it's an
It
attraction.
is.
And so it really just opens it up, kind of like that all-inclusive playground has become an attraction, right? For
Yeah.
Yeah.
parents of kids with special needs to travel from Redmond or Issaquah or
Okay.
whatever to go to this playground. Then we have this like extra element to the splash pad too. That it's really just one of those things when you get there, you're like, oh, cool.
But we're addressing the whole inclusivity, like, all the way around 100%. It's almost like we left out an element,
Yeah,
you know, and
Okay.
this way we're presenting the full meal deal.
Yeah.
Of an inclusive playground.
So in the case of the splash pad, could it also be applicable to other field uses and the movie night and the skateboarding aspect, or would it not?
sure. It depends on where you put it. This was just off on the edge, right? You just be kind of off on the edge of the.
Kind of by the
and then
entrance, cause the splash
you
pad's
just go
right there
over.
in the bathrooms, and
Mhm.
I didn't know how
There's benches.
elaborate these could get.
There's like benches, there's concrete benches and little areas like that.
Okay,
That part's not too tricky, it's, think of it as like it's a poster sized board, almost like a 4x6.
Yeah, like the size of the agenda there.
I was just trying
It's
to,
probably not quite this big, is the screen?
I was just
The way
thinking of the other
it's like-
uses
Oh,
at
yeah.
the field
Yeah.
that take place there. Rather than having it oriented just to a splash pad, we have skateboarding, we have a field, we have the movie night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know how, if it could umbrella all the potential uses of the field, or if it should just be splash pad
Like if it
specific.
should be between the splash pad and the
There's-
bathroom, so that way it kind of covers all bases of the
The
park,
design
I
of
know.
it was more what I was thinking, the placement, but design as well.
I mean, at the splash pad one, there could be a square for a playground, because the playground is up on Kite Hill.
Mhm.
But I don't really know if a child on the spectrum would necessarily be, or especially a little one would be skateboarding.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound safe to me, but, and the movie nights are twice a year at Ginny Hampton, but I think that there could be some icons
So-
at that one that would be related to that park.
This is the word I was looking for, they describe it as fringe vocabulary, this is like the. Genre of the sign, I suppose, and they have classroom versions, playgrounds, parks, gyms, PE classes, spelling and numbers.
Yep.
Playgrounds and parks being the one here, I have not seen anything about a skate park or anything, like there's not, I don't think there's gonna be a communication board with like kickflip on it or
Yeah,
skateboard.
Tony Hawk.
But very much, if you look at the icons, a lot of them are gonna be related to like the kids describing their emotional state, like I'm sad, I'm hot, I'm thirsty, things like that. And so a lot of the board is kind of more about like expressing their feelings and less about the intent.
What they
Of
want to
what I
do.
want to do.
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
lot of
okay.
expressing feelings, like it's like, I wanna talk to a friend or something like that, not necessarily like. I'm gonna go for a run to the gas station, I'll be back in 20. Yeah, that's not on the board.
Okay,
So, I don't know, a little tricky. I've only seen a few of these, and I think we wanna focus them on playgrounds where there's confined kind of access. So I'm thinking about the places where parents would bring their kids
Yeah.
to use the space like that, and they would utilize a board. And that wouldn't be in the middle of the field per se, but it definitely would be at somewhere where they would be like observing and nearby. So I don't think they're gonna go too far from the splash pad or any of the access points, so bathrooms or splash pad, maybe the skate park, but those are close enough, I think we would find a location.
well, it's the first I heard of them, so I'm learning.
yeah,
Yeah.
now you're gonna notice them and be like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
well,
never seen them before, and now I'm gonna be on the lookout.
hopefully you'll see them at your own park here.
Here in the community.
Okay, so again, what do you guys need from us? Nothing?
I don't think you really need to, you know, we're gonna put at least 2 of them up is the plan.
I will
Sounds like.
whip a grant concept together and I'll need someone to review it. Do you wanna grammar check me again?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay.
this grant is not as tricky to go after.
Okay.
It's, I wasn't planning on going after it because of the way we rank things, but I think this topic might be a good one. So we might just kinda add a couple of things. Just keep in mind, this will be my 4th grant that I've now volunteered myself for within a month, so.
Yeah.
Just know it's gonna be fast, and so additive work is open, and so I will just send an email to this group.
Yeah, kind of get an outline together.
So you can't,
if you guys
can't
work
email
on
all of us together?
I can,
Sure.
We can blind
So
CC.
you can?
oh, BCC everyone,
Blind CC.
Yeah, BC, that's what I meant,
I can do that,
because I can also send it on to them individually.
yeah,
Cause if they reply, it's just gonna reply to.
and then you'll
Yeah,
have
do that.
a hidden quorum meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
All you need is 2 people, or I guess you need all 3, yeah, never mind, take it back. Don't all go to Target at the same time or anything like that.
That would be, this is why we don't support that one,
That's
man.
right.
Don't all meet
Sorry.
at the dollar store.
Yeah. No, but this is the same problem.
Yeah, apparently no one's where work gets done.
I think I've seen a
Apparently.
quorum at a before.
It's like
Not to all.
I heard nothing.
Yeah, baked already.
So I just sent an email to these guys in August.
Yeah.
Right after we went, my husband is a big triathlete, so we went to one of his triathlons and I saw one and was like, oh, I'm excited about it. Really, we should have one at the new all-inclusive playground. Whoa, we missed that. I missed that, and so I just sent them a picture with an idea of it. So just following it up today, because this is the kind
Can
of.
you get it in before Big Truck Day, Dylan, before I have like,
No, I won't get the money,
come
but
to, hold the horn.
if I apply for this grant, I won't get the money by then. But if I
But if we
buy
win
it,
it, then we
I
can
can
just go get it.
I can-
If you win it, there you go,
I can
yeah,
install them, but.
Win it,
if you
yeah.
wanna-
No,
or I buy it and you pay my budget back.
I mean, yes, next year's Big Truck Day,
Oh,
Right?
okay.
2026?
26, get on it.
That would be really cool.
Sorry,
Get a lot
I'll,
of eyes on it here.
Yeah.
And then. Yeah, especially since Encompass sends so many kiddos there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're our partner, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like, sorry, Dylan, to reiterate, so next steps, you are going to BCC us with the grant proposal, is that it, or just with kind of telling us?
A rough grant proposal and you guys would
Yeah.
fill in the blanks and
Yeah.
add to
either
it.
that or I'm gonna determine it's not viable, one of the two.
Yeah, we should look
Okay.
at that.
Yeah. I haven't read it through it that far, and I need to make sure that it even makes sense.
I will say I'm great at reviewing grants and in the process of reviewing 70 grants, so.
Oh,
No,
there we go.
Definitely, 7.
We got them halfway.
I just finished my grant cycle last week.
Another
That's what I'm
great
talking about.
Yeah, I'm on enough boards that I have to review them, but. Yeah, it's a combination of writing them and reviewing them, it's a sweet spot, where you can get overwhelmed.
And then the other aspect too, if it does move forward, reach out to me if you need any advice. Sounds like you've got a good
Mhm.
idea of kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Recommending, but let me know if I can help in any way. with this.
Yeah, there's not too many varieties, they're more or less all the same, they just come in different sizes
Yeah,
and formats, but I think we were gonna pick one that's easiest for us to install and give it a location too.
unless you get one in a like different language, it's hard to go wrong.
Do they have words on them?
They do often, yeah, all these do.
Some of them have like very minimal words. I guess they have letters here at the bottom. Okay, yeah, I'll try not to get one in Spanish.
Okay, guys, so it sounds like we're moving on. Okay, next item on our agenda is commission meeting schedule and expectations. So we have not met formally for a year, but Paul and I were able to meet with city admin over the summer. We met in June and then September.
Yep.
And created an action proposal at that time that we presented to city admin September, I can't remember the date, September 30th, I have it dated here. So I have that here, if anybody would like to look at it. Would you like to see it? Sure. Okay. And then Paul brought it too, just so you can take a look.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
what I'd love for us to talk about is establishing a new schedule, a new time for meetings, a day that's going to make sense for all of us, and especially city staff, so you guys aren't overwhelmed, and like we were meeting really what I consider pretty late previously, and so I feel like hopefully this time works better for everybody. And then like important look and conversation about kind of the function of the commission moving forward and how we can serve a strong purpose in initiating projects without telling anybody what to do. And with staying in whatever kind of budget constraints might be going on. That's kind of where we ran into trouble before. It's not necessarily, we might have grand ideas, right, but it might not fit within the city's annual budget. So I'm opening up to anybody who wants to say anything, voice any opinion, share any thoughts. We could start with something like a schedule.
I was gonna suggest, let's anchor down the schedule aspect because that's pretty concrete and affects everybody. Before we get into content of our purpose, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know that I had suggested the day and the time tonight. And let me,
Jeff, that's right.
okay.
Yeah.
And just if I can just sort of project what was on my mind with it to the group. I was wondering if, well, first of all, we used to meet at 7 o'clock forever, as long as I've been on the body. And so we thought that it would be more helpful to everyone if they could make it by 5 o'clock to have that as the start time. The second Tuesday of the month, I had looked at, it was really just a cursory glance at the full meeting schedule with council and the other committees. And I thought that maybe tonight or this day threaded the needle nicely between council meetings and some of the, rather than.
Mondays and Tuesdays are the preferred nights, right? Because
Okay.
staff expects to stay late on those nights to do commissions and committees and the like.
Okay,
So obviously the night of council is a bad night, right?
which is
So,
gonna be a Monday.
yeah, it would be a Monday, but it's on the first and third Mondays.
Second, fourth.
Second and fourth Mondays of
Committees
each month.
Tuesdays,
And of course.
unless there's a holiday.
Yeah,
But I will say that the Parks Commission, the Monday that it fell, often was on the holiday.
Mhm.
So we'd always be moving it.
We were trying
Yeah, that's true.
to avoid having to deal with that, I
Yeah.
think, as well.
And Tuesdays kind of, unless it's a holiday, then things are moved to Tuesday and then it would hop, but.
And then you have the committee meeting preceding the council meetings. That our staff liaison is at.
Mondays and Tuesdays,
yeah,
the weeks prior.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Parks and Public Works committee meetings are on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. Second,
First and
first
third.
and third,
First and third.
first and third Tuesdays.
First and third Tuesdays.
So
Yeah,
if you go
so we're Tuesday,
second
Friday,
or
Tuesday.
fourth Tuesday of a month is usually a good day. 5 o'clock's fine,
Well,
4 o'clock would be even better.
Works too.
We wouldn't
I
have,
know you guys are.
we wouldn't have staff available like for this on really any Monday.
Okay,
Because I'm already Mondays, we have a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
okay,
And then on the first and third Tuesdays, we have a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So if you want if you want a 5 o'clock, it has to be the Tuesday after council. Like
Second
today.
Tuesday.
So, yeah,
so the
Second or
Tuesday, the second Tuesday, or, well, for everybody, we're all here,
How about you?
That works on me.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
And then do we like a
Are
5
you
o'clock start
committed?
time?
I 5 o'clock.
Second Tuesday,
okay.
Yeah, Tuesday's my busiest day.
before committee for us.
Make it, if it's, every other month,
Something like that.
Okay.
that's not a strain.
And we'll keep in mind to try for 4, Jeff, but I don't know, I think 5 is probably the earliest.
You want every other month?
So that's the next step, so kind of what, every other month, even potentially quarterly, right, what makes sense? We were talking about this before in our meeting last summer. I
We
think-
were,
I
yeah,
think I'm pretty flexible, I want this to have purpose and function, and I don't want it to be yet just another meeting. I think I can see Paul's point, I think your point, I'm gonna speak for you, but what I remember you saying is that you wanted to kind of stay on top of it and you didn't want our function to fall off too. So every other month might serve a good purpose too.
that's what my gut tells me is that would be a good starting point every other month. Because if you get into quarterly, then what were we talking
None of
about
it was-
last month?
Yeah.
You know, just, you lose the thread, you lose the plot, I think, if you do it quarterly.
We also typically don't meet in December.
Mhm.
And then August is often not met too,
Okay,
which gives you a little
Staff will be gone.
bonus time in your life.
January,
Yeah.
Yeah.
March, May,
May,
July, not August, then September.
And then
November, that would work out great.
Yeah.
Okay, do we wanna start with that?
Sure.
So the second Tuesday at 5 o'clock every other month.
August. Yeah.
Yeah, so our next
Oh,
meeting would be the
nice pattern
second
in there.
Tuesday, man, I don't like this, but.
And this is an odd month, so we fell right on target, didn't we?
Right,
Okay. You don't want 8 o'clock on Monday night?
I'm gonna be here anyway.
She will be. Jeff and I are, no, will Jeff be here? And Dylan be here? And hopefully we'll be able
that
to.
just has to go back to this hanger.
Ooh, yes,
Yeah, I don't have to be here, you guys know everyone, public works, so that's.
on odd ones, because we're not.
Not important.
You're there.
That's,
5 p.m.
that's.
Yeah,
I want you to know about Jessica. She's probably all over it.
She put it all over, she reminded me about it the other day, actually. I already got it.
You gotta think about it.
okay,
No, she
So,
thinks they're good.
cool, good. Everyone's happy. It seems, right?
Yep.
Everyone's happy with that.
okay, and then some other things on this action proposal would be that I would, right now it's me, if we are doing elections coming up in May, it might change. That the commission chair communicates with the staff liaison 1 week prior to establish the agenda. That happened this month, yay. I set a reminder, I actually paid attention to it, yeah, here we are. And then I think that's it for the kind of the bottom of that first page as far as specific proposed changes. And then you two commissioners looking at the back. Okay, so where we left off, or where the city left off really, Dina, is that commissioners have 2-year terms now. Do you remember?
Yes.
That was the big talk last year. Okay, 2-year terms and everybody's term expires at the end of December.
Oh.
It's all the same,
Right,
okay,
so, right here in the code, it's in the municipal code.
okay,
2-year terms through December 31st, 2 expire on odd numbered years and 3 expire on even numbered years. So they won't all expire on 1 year, it's like they're staggered, but it's always at December 31st.
okay.
And we're all given numbered
Positions.
positions,
You all have
so
positions.
that's already preordained.
So let me see.
Yeah,
Well, and that's also on the, if you go to the website.
well, we're coming back to new purpose.
I love it, yeah.
Here y'all are, and so it looks like Emily and Paul, your term expires at the end of this year. Then typically what we do is depending on the mayor's direction, we reach out to anybody whose terms are expiring to see if they're interested in reappointment. And then if they're not, then we know that we have to really amp up recruitment. And so Amanda, yours expires in 2026. And then we have 2 vacancies that would expire in 2026 too.
So the appointed is the appointment for this current term, not when you originally
Correct.
started, okay?
Okay, helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So you and I just have to consider in come December what our game plan is, what we want to do.
Yep.
Okay, looking at this kind of back here, and you speak up anytime you two. So there is a thought of, when I was doing some research on other comparable cities, some of them had a seat for resident or youth student advisors, a 12 to 17-year-old on the commission. I would really like us to kind of get back and rolling and successful with this every other month and kind of with our new function purpose before we introduce something like that. But even maybe
I
like
would
to
say
have
so.
yet another commissioner or 2 before we open it up to something like a student, a resident youth joining us. That's just my thought process, but I love the idea of that kind of in the far future.
I love the idea of that too. I think any type of like student youth advisory contribution to a commission. Do any of the other commissions have?
Our arts commission has a student, I'm not sure how.
When did that?
Cool.
Well, we don't have one currently, but it's been talked about. I don't have one. Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know that she's attended anything.
she has not. That the one that did some work with him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Is
Not
that,
a,
Official,
not a
unofficial?
not a robust role.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wonder if there'd be a way to have the other commissions like together do some type of recruitment, like if commissions are looking for a student advisory to join the various commissions, 1 student per commission, just throwing it out there. If you're gonna do one, then I would suspect that a student would say, well, what about this group or what about that group?
yeah, maybe.
It's not
It's actually
official
not
because
just
it's
like a
not in the
one.
code,
Okay,
right? So it was just, she had said that she has a passion for that, and so she wanted to intern with us. We don't really have that type of
oh,
program here, and so
It may not be in the code, but I have seen in the old arts files, they did either explore it or try to recruit one. I'm looking at you because Dylan used to do arts commission as well, but
I think when we look at
It's a public meeting, so.
if we
yeah,
look
we
at
could
the
just have
different types of
teenagers show up if they wanted
commissions,
to join.
really, it would just be this one and the arts.
But it wasn't anything formal.
Doesn't
That
have to
would
be per
have
se.
students.
Okay.
And in order for it to be
Not a
formal, it had to
requirement.
be put in the code first before we.
Well,
open up the spot.
possibly.
Okay.
I mean,
Does
I don't think you
everything
have
put in the
to, yeah.
code?
I think you
It's
just
better
choose
to
to
have
add to one, but, cause kids are, like summer happens and they're not gonna be here
Well, yeah,
until
if you did it
summer.
like starting in September, like when you were saying, waiting a while, I was thinking like September would be a good time.
Also,
Start the new school.
some cities have youth advisory councils,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which would be
Well,
another option.
it's nice for
More
kids.
specific.
Whoever that potentially would be, for them to put on a resume, right, or put on like volunteer for college applications.
The high school has a program like this, cause I've worked with them before.
Ah,
for the Meadowbrook sign, is that when you did it?
For the Meadowbrook sign, and I went in and I did like a semester where one of the projects, I'd go in and like present to the kids one day about planning. So there's a group that does stuff like that in Meadowbrook sign.
Yeah, and the library, I had a meeting with them and since we met last year to this year, they have just 8, which is quite good. You went from 0 to 8, team advisory. Like, or it's just a different word for it, but it's activating the team. The teams.
Would there be any possibility of talking to the Y or looking at extending an arm with that relationship for this?
Yeah, there's actually a new staff person up there, his name's Zach, and have you met him, Jack? He's been there about 6 months. He actually, I met him a few different times, and his thing is teens, tweens, and he does all of the sports programming. Actually told me he got an offer to be a teacher and instead he chose to come work at the Y. But he's really working hard to activate that population.
Okay.
He's even young himself. loves trivia night.
Like I'm already.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a possibility. I keep hearing when I'm out in the community, and the different groups that I'm in, is that we need more for our teens and our tweens. And to keep them off their scooters and their e-bikes going
Yep.
up and down Center Boulevard. This is also what I hear.
Well, I really like your idea of putting a pool together for them to look at what their interests might be, you know, as a way for them to kind of see a career path, possibly.
Well, and then they could also like, out of all the different commissions, like connect together, like, I mean, like an official meeting, but you know, have that time to talk about like, what are you learning from it, or, you know, what are you contributing? I don't know, that would kind of be nice, like if it was the start of the school year, end of the school year program where they could be involved and contribute.
Yeah, great. Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna punt that,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
get to talk about
downright.
it, kind of get feelers.
It'd be nice to have 4 of us, if nothing else for guidance,
Yeah,
of the youth.
yeah, I just would like to get some consistency, like some
Right.
consistent meetings and time kind of under our belts moving forward. See how it's going
Sure,
before we add a teen who wants hours.
absolutely.
Recruitment of the commission.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we've experienced is, it's more about, let me put this on my school application
Yeah.
than really investing in it or being there for the right reason. Then it kind of becomes, I know, but I mean, then it kind of becomes not babysitting, but I don't know, it just,
I think it's kind of about exposure, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that the kids see how a commission works. Cause
Sure.
they may never have any concept of. what
oh,
this
I
is.
would be like, come in and listen and watch, kind of like American government, you'd have to go in and watch a city meeting or something, I think that's great, but then
Present to city council.
but to be like, can you give this person some work to do, not knowing if they're gonna show up, or it becomes more of a burden on the staff person, but I
Yeah,
love
totally.
the exposure and letting them be here and watch our government.
But they could also get like a teen perspective that maybe we didn't
Yeah.
think about too.
Yeah,
I was on a youth advisory board, that's why
yeah,
I like.
We also
Us
have
too.
a problem with getting volunteers,
Yes.
whether they be teens or otherwise, so you have.
Someone who wants to be here.
Well, you have to, yeah, I mean, as you know, we still have vacancies here, so it's just really hard for us to recruit for these commissions in general,
Mhm.
so. There's a lot of vacancies.
Okay, I'm gonna keep us moving just for sake of time.
Yeah.
Going back to the first page, you guys, because there are a couple things that we talked about specific proposed changes, so halfway down. I just want to bring up. So these are again ideas that I generated. Creation of a commission priority list for immediate and long-term projects. That might be a really good thing to come back with in May. We could each kind of want to generate some ideas of things to touch upon, and then we can have the conversation on what's feasible. Within this year's budget and with labor and all of that. And then more consistent communication between the commission and the Parks and Public Works Committee. We have possible options. So we've got one of us attending the Parks and Public Works Committee meeting quarterly to provide regular updates or successes, or just providing kind of a submission in writing of things that we've talked about or achieved or want to initiate, whatever. Do we want to formalize that now? Do we just want to think about it? To talk about it in May?
I think it's a great.
I do too.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's part of the
tonight,
report
you made
we give.
decisions,
Yeah.
like this would be a good night to put your
You
recommendations.
gotta get on the agenda,
Okay.
you know, the week before,
We can do that while we're sitting here.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What if we, maybe this is biting off more than we can chew, what if we did it on the non-meeting months?
Oh, like in
Even.
April,
The,
showed up for the April, they meet every other
Twice,
week,
yeah.
don't they?
Yeah, twice a month,
twice a month.
Yeah.
Would it be better
So
to
someone
be at
could-
the first or second meeting of the month
first.
first?
first usually, yeah.
Okay, so it would be 3 weeks later, going to the,
But it'd be good
Public Works
for
Committee.
those guys to hear from you,
Yeah,
right?
Okay,
we would be
Kids are relevant.
overstepping Councilmember
No.
Benson.
No. He'd love it,
yeah.
I think.
Okay,
You
you
want to
think-
do every other month?
is that too
Even-
much, or I was thinking
Together?
just to.
Yeah.
Commit it to memory, it would be on, it would maybe happen during the months that we're not meeting as a,
Well,
Body.
wait, so if we're thinking like the next time they're gonna meet and at the beginning of the month, you said the better time, it would be the first week of April. Right, so it'd be 3 weeks,
Even numbered months.
yeah, and even numbered months. Then we could decide that month if we have enough to kind of bring forward and talk about.
okay, right,
Let
Or
Jeff
not.
know.
Yeah,
do we want, how formal do we want it to be, or do we want to just be sitting in the crowd going, hey,
We would have.
Same
yeah, it
thing.
sounds like we would add it to the agenda and then
Yeah,
one of us
okay.
would come and be like,
Mhm.
we're part of the Parks and Events Commission, we're just gonna share what we talked about last month.
I think what you want them to know.
Yeah.
About what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
it's, so maybe we would be giving a synopsis of our previous meeting essentially.
If there was something,
If
like,
there was something relevant,
yeah,
We might just have like bullet points on it, you know, like, for your reference, and then you just get to talk about those things that you talked about at the last meeting or what the commission's doing.
You're
Yeah.
excited about what you
Yeah.
wanna see in the future.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here.
I mean, even today.
yeah, today was a lot.
how much of, before this idea started rolling, how much of what we actually do in here translates into what they talk about?
Well, see, it's all about FaceTime, right?
Mhm.
So if they see you, then they'll talk about you.
Okay, and if we're not there, they say bad things.
They don't shade, they don't think about
You
you.
just forgot,
Yeah,
This
no
is
offense.
my strategy.
Yeah,
that's what we do, all right?
We don't
give
wanna be ghosts.
presentations to committee all the time, just to let them know what we're doing, right?
Okay.
Cause if we don't do that, then they speculate.
and, but when we make recommendations, decision recommendations, it goes through them before it moves to council, is that right?
Well, well, not, presentations don't usually go to council, right? But what it is if you guys are working on something, and you feel strongly about something, or you have an opinion. Right, and you say, well, this was a topic that came up during our commission meeting, we discussed it, we feel strongly about it, this is what the commission recommends. Right, and the committee hears that.
Okay,
To give an example, like Jeff looking ahead, like Dylan can get approval for a grant for the communication boards, the grant comes in, maybe that is a bullet on the agenda. Dylan and then one of you guys would present and say, this came out of the Parks and Events Commission. Dylan worked on a grant, we collaboratively worked on a grant, we have the money. These parks, these will be installed before Big Truck Day on June 15th.
2026.
But I mean,
These are
that.
one,
Yeah.
2025.
And if you keep pushing, it's gonna be 27.
Then I'm the nag and then they sue me out.
I think for the April, the first meeting in April, it would be great for you to come and be on the agenda. And, I mean, you can talk about, you know, the
We're
commission
back.
met, we have form now.
Yeah.
We have a new schedule, like when the new schedule is, you know, you're informing them, this is what we decided upon. And at our first meeting in March, we talked about communication boards. And so then you can have actually an image on the screen, because they may not know what those are either.
Probably true.
And we can show it on the screen, and then you can explain it, like, this is you know, something that
Yeah.
working with staff to bring to this park, splash pad, and these two unknown parks.
It
We're
doesn't have to
talking about in a
be-
minute.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything where it takes a lot of preparation, right?
No.
I mean, every committee meeting, I give the director's report, right? And that's just me standing up there, just, you know.
But sometimes a visual is great.
You know, throwing a
Photos.
visual up is a great idea, you know, if you have something or. you know,
Really
kind of-
detailed Excel.
No.
When you say
No, no, that's
communication
bad.
boards,
Yeah.
Table. That's what I do.
Put up
We're
a really
talking about,
small
like,
type
I'm like,
table.
this slideshow would be 15 slides long of this Excel sheet.
so then Monday, April 7th is their next meeting,
Two,
or the
leaving
first
on
Tuesday?
Tuesdays.
Oh, I'm sorry,
First
Tuesday,
Tuesday of the month.
first Tuesday, April Fool's Day,
It's the
April
8th,
1st.
April 8th.
oh, April, the second Tuesday.
It's called the fifth Monday when there's no. When the last meeting of the month,
If there's 5 Mondays, we go up the 5th week and we have no meetings.
there's no council, and that's the case for April. And so the first meeting
Show
we
up
all.
work.
We are.
So the 8th would be the
Yeah,
first
eighth
one.
would be the
Yes.
best. Do you wanna add it right now?
Yeah.
And then we need to
Sure.
choose someone to show up
Yeah,
or?
I'm on spring break that week, but I'm home, so I don't mind. I can take this first one and then we can rotate if everybody still wants a chance.
Oh, they're gonna be all
I
fired
was
up.
thinking of just, what if,
What, Jeff?
They're gonna be all fired
Presentation
up,
by?
because we're bringing up,
The
we're
water?
bringing contracts.
I was thinking of showing up just for
First,
learning.
for the good news, right?
We can start at 4:30.
Yeah, we'll get you guys, yeah, that's right, we'll send you guys.
Do you wanna start at 4:30?
No, no.
No, I don't think so, these contracts are not that tricky, they're all our RH2 contracts.
Yeah, we've been waiting to get the
Yeah.
utility rate study completed before we brought these things forward, so.
Right.
So we'll all just sort of cut our teeth
High
on
quality TV.
the meeting and watch the dance and learn.
Quality of my
So,
Yeah, I don't mind being American for state pay. I feel like that's a good
okay.
role for me.
I think we need to keep it short.
These are two and
Just go.
and
I
record
hate it when
presentation.
There you go, we can,
Yeah.
To every meeting I was at, they're like,
Yeah.
let's do 4:30.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
excellent.
Don't want to.
Emily's gonna give the presentation.
and we didn't even talk about this. And if you guys would, if you wanna email me like, you know, bullet points that you see, that would help me,
Okay.
but I feel like I've got a good idea of kind of what to share.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, but I'd love your input.
okay.
Okay, well, awesome, let me see if there's anything else on here, I
Yeah.
know there's stuff in the back. Okay, this is a kind of a big one, and we can table this till May if we want to. But the 5th bullet point on the back, develop and maintain a handbook to serve as a specific orientation for each new commissioner with items pertaining to commissioner roles and responsibilities, expected attendance and demeanor, meeting preparations, expectations and initiating ideas, and participation in commission. Gina, I'm looking at you to see if something like this exists already.
We already have a handbook.
Yeah, and is
It's
it,
for all commissions.
okay, is it something that was redone
Yes.
Wasn't
the
this the
beginning
We've been
handbook?
talking
of
about
the year?
handbooks for the better part of a
I
decade.
already have the same.
But they
Guess what?
redid
We have
all of
one
it.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
demeanor, so
Yeah, that,
I don't like your demeanor.
You're hostile.
we've had, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
we've had some stuff happen in the past, so I think it's never hurts to kind of go over how
I
to
think a lot of people.
act during a meeting.
Here's a special little city clerk file, by the way.
So it
It's
was
just me.
finalized
Go.
last November, and this is on the website.
Okay.
It's a little, yeah, I sent it to all the new
All the
commissioners.
commissioners get it.
And I think I actually sent it last, either
Yeah,
last
you sent them
December
out
to
last year
everybody.
when you get it done.
Yeah. And so that, and we update this pretty regularly, it feels like.
Okay.
I think it got updated twice last year. And the mayor updates this, it's her handbook. So, and it's for all of the commissions.
Awesome.
And it's 10 pages long, so it does talk about roles and responsibilities, absences, all kinds of things. I think the elections are in here too. Attendance, preparation, what you need to do to prepare. Election, unless first regular meeting of each
1
calendar
year.
year. So we didn't have any regular meetings, right? So now we have a regular schedule, so we can actually put that on the agenda for the next meeting, because that will be our next regular meeting. And then, you know, what to do if you want to resign, which we hope you never do. Removal, staff members, staff functions, legal counsel, there's just all kinds of topics in here.
Awesome.
Sure.
At the very end, it talks about requirements, required training through the state RCW, there's certain required training that you have to do, so that kind of talks about
Oh,
that,
sure.
open public meetings, public records, that kind of thing, so.
And you had a Robert's Rules specialist before the pandemic, I wanna say.
Yeah, Anne McFarland,
Right.
yeah, that was a special training for
Dinosaurs.
council.
Oh, okay.
I brought this just in case. I'll bring it in case we need it.
Rules.
Because we're so strict on Robert's Rules.
Yeah.
It's
Everything's there. It's like,
This is-
going in a rule.
This is on the
Figure some
website.
movement.
We have to argue about motions and who made a motion and who didn't.
Okay, I'm on a homeowners board and I'm trying to make them
Yeah,
understand.
I was gonna say,
Sure.
if that's where we ended up.
Point of order.
Went too far.
Yeah.
So I can send this out if you need me to.
No, now that I know that exists, I think I thought it was, it like being edited,
Oh.
right? And then the wording here made it sound like we had to create our own, and I'm like, I feel like this probably already exists, so thank you.
But I mean, if there's things in there that you think are missing, we can just kind of keep a kind of ongoing list for the next
Yeah,
revision.
days later.
If my rehab desktop has trouble retethering itself to the city website, who do I talk to about that?
Fletcher.
IT.
Okay, Fletcher.
Okay, and then the last two bullet items there, commissioners, are implementation of regular votes to take action on specific projects pertaining to spec interest. Thanks Dylan for nudging us towards voting on that tonight, that's great. And then make recommendations on biannual city budget for projects or matters pertaining to the commission interest without providing direction or instruction of any kind to the city staff. So just reading that out loud so you guys know that that's out there.
You do with the pros plan, that's essentially,
Yeah, if you want our
Something.
input for something like that, that we can serve that role. And then this last list of bullet items, might be something to read over and kind of review, maybe a good topic for May is like potential agenda items or potential things that we might want to see, have, take off. Even, you know, something like trail maintenance, and our sign system, through the trails, we've talked about that several times. But we know that that's not feasible right now, just with,
We are doing some trail signage right now, actually, we are doing
Yay.
trail signage.
okay, I was just using that as an example of something that
I
would
just
be.
saw some trail signage on the Silent Creek Trail, but I have
Yeah.
not
Oh,
seen them
really?
recently.
We're putting up signs, yeah, we're slow rolling it, but, we have to stay within a budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else as far as this agenda item with meeting schedule and expectations? You guys, or you feel like,
I don't think so.
so these kind of lays the groundwork?
You know what, I do wanna make a comment, for the record. I don't ever recall us, I'm glad it's called out about not providing direction to city staff, but I don't. If the perception of that happened at some point in the past, it was probably totally on accident, we weren't trying to tell staff what to do,
I don't think it wasn't you guys,
okay,
there was a couple people that were trying to do that.
Okay.
I got you. I know when I was a planner working in other cities, sometimes commissioners would call me up and try to cajole me into
Yeah,
some favor or something like that.
or use us for their private, my trail needs weed whacking or, stuff
Oh, I
like that,
gotcha.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right. But it's good it's in there, just to be clear,
It's
so,
there, okay. Okay, well, please keep us in line too.
I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
Okay. All right, so then the last thing on this agenda list are parks projects updates.
this is me.
It's you, da-da-da.
That's one of the bullet points right there.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about in this is how we're gonna approach park, so. The CIP has a couple programs, one of those programs is the Parks Replacements Improvements Program. And so we have a certain amount of money every other year. And we're a biennial budget, so that just essentially means this budget, we have a certain amount of money. And what I'm doing to kind of go for this is I've divided the fund, the Parks Replacement Fund, into sections, one for park play equipment replacement. First play, I called out lots of parks that need to be replaced, going down that list, right? And then a certain percentage of it to surfacing and a certain percentage to kind of like facility equipment, so think communications boards, trash cans, benches. You name it, there's most things in that category. So what I have is a certain fund set aside for the play equipment. And what I'm going to do is contact a bunch of, like a specific type of contracting agency to provide us with playgrounds that fit a certain parameter. I'll try to call it out based on so we're limited on size and scope and some things like that, given the parks locations that we're replacing. And so I'll kind of go out there and measure, get an idea of what limitations I want to give them, essentially giving them a scope and say, please provide me with a couple of park concepts within this range with these ideas. And they're based on the pros plan, so they're gonna have inclusivity, access for one, a certain type of fall protection, and some other things like that. And then I'm gonna bring those designs, and I'd like you to recommend your preferred ones in those locations, and then I'm gonna go contract and build them.
Okay,
So that's the
great.
plan. So this is a good example of how you guys would interact with Public Works Committee, so. I could do this anyway, I could just go run through, but instead, it's better if we utilize our public engagement. So bringing you guys the designs to help me pick apart what best reflects the needs and wants of the community and the location,
Give us
things like that.
input, right?
Yeah.
What's your input?
Yeah.
That's how we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
That's been standard procedure.
Yep, and so then I'll take that and get it constructed over the winter probably,
That's what's up.
when it's not gonna be used. Or as much,
Yeah, right.
yeah, so that's the plan.
Splashes on everything.
And how are you prioritizing which ones?
We have a priority that came out of the CIP review, so the pros plan for us had capital infrastructure priorities.
Mhm.
And so there's several parks that were in more dire need and are like high priority. High need, high, whatever the Gantt chart is, or the quad chart, that high need and high importance of this, can't remember exactly now,
Like
but
how usage maybe?
yeah, something like that. And it's not always high usage, just sometimes there's a bunch of parks that are in like failure. They're nearing failure. They're 20 some odd years old. If they're made of wood, they're gonna go downhill pretty quick. But we also have some, I think Sonic Creek is the one. So here are the playgrounds, I think there's 3 I have in mind, given our budget. Cascade, Silent Creek and Hop. And the intent there is to take advantage of Hop and Thompson and remove the swing set at Thompson. Because they're across the street from each other. And then there's another playground, or Silent Creek, or do I mean to say
I know which one you're talking about.
Cottonwood?
Cottonwood.
Yeah, Cottonwood.
Not Silent Creek, it's
I'll
called.
pull it up, I can't
There's
remember
two right
exactly
next to
now, I'm
each
starting to get a little scatter shot with all the options, but there's a couple playgrounds that are too close together. The pros plan's recommendation was pick one, lose one, or pick one and improve it, pick one, lose it. And so we don't have to go after that immediately, and depending on how expensive things get, I might just leave a swing set that's fully operational for another year or two. And just prioritize the improvements, but we kind of have some wiggle room.
If you're gonna lose the playground, is it just, this might be kind of an out there question, does it just become kind of a green space?
That's, we
Well,
have
depends.
options.
Yeah, we could turn it into a kind of a low maintenance park,
Yeah.
right, which is a different experience, but still park setting,
Yeah, a couple
Right.
benches, maybe.
things like that, picnic area, that sort of stuff,
Grass.
right? But, maintaining a play equipment,
Yeah,
there's a health and safety element to it, inspections, a lot more maintenance on a playground,
And we have a lot of playgrounds
we have a lot.
in that city.
I mean, we survived the 80s.
Right.
And all sides.
Oh, the hot metal sleds.
Yeah.
Wood chips everywhere.
Awful slides.
I'm old enough, it was the big tire in the ground, and then you went in there and you hid.
We could,
Spider.
we
Jeff and I are of the same.
Big toys for you.
Climb up into the top, smell like tar, when you come out.
in case you're wondering if that's the recommendation of this committee, I might go rogue. If the recommendation is tractor tires, then. I might pivot,
Give us some other extra tires and we'll start putting them in the dirt.
Do a throwback playground.
Yeah.
So Cottonwood and Silent Creek.
That's.
Yes, I think those parks are the ones that are like 5 doors down.
Yeah.
There's like 5 houses.
We buy the surplus
these are the pair,
playgrounds from other
and
cities.
then Raven Park is not ours or something like that.
Be good to the budget.
There's a few that are all right next to each other that it's like decide on one of these 3. Decide on one of these 2, and improve the other, so this one off has better equipment, so basically that's, we already went over this in the pros plan, I just can't keep track of which one's which anymore. But I have it kind of sketched, and so that, and then I think Cascade's in here too. Cascade's a wooden park that's failing, so it's prioritizing the parks that are failing
Yeah,
or have failed, and we've either removed equipment, blocked it, set it aside, something like that, those are the higher priorities, and then it's the next ones, which is trying to kind of work down that list, and a couple of them ended up right here in this little. Decide on one of these 3 parks and make the other ones go away, make this one better. And so,
sorry to interrupt you.
no,
What's the timeline look like for this?
my thinking is to have some stuff in the summer,
Start this year.
yeah, and then kind of complete the work over the winter. So started this year, yeah, and I'm going with a faster contracting process, it's a. We don't need to get into contract stuff, but it's gonna work a little quicker, I'm not gonna go to bid for these things, I'm just gonna use a KCBA contract. But yeah, so the idea is that I'll go out to those companies, give me a bunch of ideas, we'll have a whole table full or, screen full of options, and we'll kind of narrow it down. Get to some good ones, and then I will work on getting the money set aside and working on them. And then we'll just complete that over the course of this fall to next spring.
Great.
Or to next summer if it ends up with the splash pad.
Can I float an idea your way to consider? Would it be helpful to you and the staff if these projects, you had us give a blessing on a priority list, so that if someone complained to you, you could blame it on us and not staff?
The priority list is already naturally created by the equipment and the pros plan. Those are already kind of
Okay.
blessed.
It would reinforce it,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
Because
if
I
people
would-
support it, for sure, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing really helps.
Cause are we going to the public and saying, we're not asking their permission, but are we gonna do public outreach,
This
this
is-
is
This
gonna
isn't
happen?
public, this is,
That's what I was kind
In
of
this case.
confirming, because you're right, if all of a sudden moms see their playground being dismantled,
Right,
the Facebook page on Snoqualmie Bridge is gonna be.
and part of our
lit
role
up.
is to
Yeah.
take the heat off of staff, so,
I think
for what it's worth.
we're good there. The need for the playgrounds that we're working through is apparent, I think. And it was already kind of captured in the post plan. The design part, that's the part where I don't wanna take heat because we picked a purple slide and
Yeah.
everyone hates purple. That is where I'm gonna go, like, and walk away from it, but we'll try to do a lot of broadcasting ahead of time. Usually
We'll
that
do a
works.
press release and we'll do some
Yeah,
outreach
And I'll
thing.
put a little poster
Yeah.
out there
I
with
was
the
gonna say, can you
designs.
just put that poster
Yeah.
up again?
Yep, I can do that pretty
Okay,
easily.
start.
Well, use this
Doing
as
the
you need,
construction.
on an as needed basis in that regard, you know?
Yeah, it'll basically be, I'm gonna take this design sets, the 3 parks I'm hoping. That's what I'm gonna take to count committee, I'm gonna say, this is the recommended from the Parks and Events Commission. Set of playgrounds we're gonna replace with this contracted method, excuse me, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
If I don't care about that, but.
this process is kind of already in the can, but you know, we'll get your input on it and that way, you know, you can let the public element
Right,
for these granular, smaller projects. And we do have some bigger projects that we'll wanna we're gonna get you involved with too. You
Right.
guys can really sink your teeth into,
okay,
which I can talk about a little bit next, but you know,
okay.
and that one is a little bit more out of the box. If you guys wanna talk about that now.
Sure, as long as.
I'm done, yep, that's
Thank you.
the
Thank
next
you.
steps.
Might be also, just for one more comment about this, is that if these are smaller neighborhood parks, people are just gonna be excited that something's changing and that there's new stuff coming in.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll get the same kind of blow up as something like as public as a splash pad has gotten and like
Yeah.
the delays the splash pad had had.
The splash is way more complicated, so it
Yeah.
can delay, this is like 9 posts of concrete going in the ground and they just have to be straight, so.
And people are gonna really appreciate, especially those 2 parks, Cottonwood and Southern. because
Yeah,
these parks
I
are
hear
so
about them a
aged.
lot, yeah.
Yeah,
Ivy Mill.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna be like, oh my god, it's purple.
What
They're
about
like,
the
this
one
is
that
great
gets
too,
to the
this is
point?
great. But
There are 5 houses apart from each other,
Yeah,
these
tops,
2 parks.
there's a
like,
few,
There's like 4 or 5 houses between them, they're so close.
Cool, I hope
Yeah.
that there's everybody reasonable like you.
and we'll get some complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always
Whatever.
to complain.
If you say,
I'm
join
thinking the dog
commission,
park
then you
model.
can. At the
Yep.
table.
Right.
That's
Like
what
that
we're
was my
here
Facebook comment every time
Mhm.
people were griping, I'm like, well, there's open spots on these
Yeah.
commissions if anybody wants to.
Yeah, that's right. That's
You're
right.
awesome.
You Want your voice to be heard? That's right. Get involved. Well, okay, so here's a big one.
Yeah.
And so this one here is going to have a lot of input. And it's probably gonna be in some ways contentious because there's gonna be so much input and a lot of stakeholders. And it's gonna have huge impact to the downtown. And what I'm talking about is Railroad Park,
Yeah.
right?
Railroad Park,
Railroad Park.
okay?
Which is a great little park, but it has limited function. And the desire is, we have several things happening downtown, so, you know, there's the museum, of course, and the train. There is the potential for, and likelihood, I would say, of the model train museum coming in, which will be at the bowling alley and the gravel lot over there. And that will intensify activity in that area. We, of course, have our Sandy Cove Park restoration, which will hopefully start this summer. Right, and that's pretty much the nexus for a lot of activity And River Trail construction begins this year, the first phase of the River Trail, actually the second phase of the River Trail.
No,
I got the first. phase.
No.
Are you saying
I-
over
complaint.
here?
Yeah,
Over here?
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
first segment of River Trail. Anyway,
Upstream.
Is the river trail, how's that related to the
the
walk?
River Walk is a word we never use anymore.
There's synonymous words now.
Yeah, what's the no word?
River
New
walk.
Orange River.
River Walk,
Trail.
we don't say that anymore because the tribe finds it offensive.
That's River Trail.
Yeah. It has baggage.
It's a trail, there's a path that's along the river, like through Old Town.
The proposed section that we're gonna add is mostly soft, there's actually a bit of sidewalk areas,
Okay.
but.
Yeah.
It's, you know, the house that got demoed, that white house that we pulled down, so. It'll start kind of like where those grove of trees are, and it's gonna go all the way towards Kimball Creek, and it kind of does a loop, and it will connect over to that spur, which is like the high point where a railroad.
Rail trestle
Used to be.
across the river.
It's kind of like the high spot when you see how the trail that currently exists there, how it kind of goes up and down, up and down. Well, it goes up in one spot, and that used to be a rail bed. So there'll be a crosswalk that goes there. And for a while, there'll just be a painted crosswalk.
And it'll have some connectivity to Townsend
You're
and
gonna
phase
take
3.
down a walkway.
Yeah,
Yes,
do
me
that
too.
walkway.
Because if you guys keep
Yeah.
talking about trestle and I keep looking and I don't see it, so. I
You
wanna
don't see
walk.
that trestle?
No, Jeff, I don't, Jeff, because I'm trying to keep my eyes on the road when I'm driving. But I really want Dylan to take me out on a walk.
Oh, yeah, you can walk out on there, I'd be careful.
It's Blackberry.
That's why I'll go with Dylan.
So things are moving.
Yeah, so the thing I'm talking about is the railroad park.
Sorry. take
And
this
so
one
we have the
second.
log pavilion, which needs some attention. We have an old, I guess you would call it a canopy structure that is kind of a rusty bucket of bolts. That apparently is not in such bad condition that it will get dragged and come down, but it's.
Well, that was 2 years ago. I'd really love to.
I think it's actually,
I'd really love to revisit its current status.
I would borrow Patrick's beer stamp, just say,
It
structurally.
has limited usefulness and it's an eyesore and
Yes.
it's kind of really an attraction for, our homeless population and it's kind of nasty, frankly. And so what we've been trying to figure, and you may recall that last summer we did a trial project to close King Street for a portion of the summer.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was about.
Yeah, and so we had food trucks and, we were trying to invite people. And I think that the food trucks like the idea of it because the Railroad Museum is close proximity, but you can imagine after the model railroad or model train museum gets built and, there's a lot more activity downtown, it's also going to increase the potential for us to activate that railroad park. As you can tell on what Dylan has up on the screen, it's very linear, it's narrow. But it could be used for a lot of functions. So Saturday market type activity. It's not well configured for that right now, but it could be. We have events that use that currently. What's that, SIP?
Sit fest.
SIP Fest, right?
Yeah.
They use it. And that's actually a really nice little event. I mean, it's not huge, but for little events like that, it would be great for that. If we can get the configuration right? So we need to do a couple things. One, we need to put some fencing along the side, so keep people from wandering out onto the rail. And that's something Richard, the Railroad Museum really wants us to do. We are going to be doing a project at King Street to do a railroad crossing. That is supposed to happen, Richard wants to do it this summer. I don't know if we get to it, but hopefully.
Just signed the design and engineering contract, so we'll see.
You can safety.
A safer crossing, yeah, what they're gonna
Oh,
do.
this isn't the river trail section.
To make it a
Oh,
safer
this is-
crossing.
Jeff's talking about redesigning railroad park. It's, I'm just showing
I was
you.
like, there's gonna be a trail, it's gonna literally.
I'll get back to that one.
Yeah,
That's okay,
Yeah.
now.
so I guess my point is that what we're going to do is we're gonna initiate a project. We'll hire a professional landscape architecture firm to help us develop some concepts based on what functions we want it to have, right? And we're gonna get some ideas, and so we're going to want to engage you guys to help us consider those options.
Jeff, I liked what you said, is that you want this park to be the community park for downtown. Like you have the community park, you have Centennial, And Jeannie Hansen, she likes downtown, yeah, so
That's
this will be like
Yeah.
the big.
Well,
parks
it's a
downtown.
nexus for all kinds of activity, right?
It really is.
Would you like eliminate then when there's activities that are happening, like I'm thinking like railroad days, right, where like the whole street's closed off?
This would be part of railroad days.
This would be like an extension of it, you wouldn't move that area over to it, so people could still drive through.
Well, railroad days is kind of struggling because the state highway and the traffic issues and all of that, so.
I will say, not spoiler alert, there is going to be a vote on the powers that be, not the city. That event has been taken over by the Downtown Merchant Association. The Railroad Museum is not doing it. They'll be meeting this weekend to see if that event will happen this summer. But it is rebranded Snoqualmie Days, but if it does move forward, the good news is they're not going to close Railroad, only for the parade. All of the
Okay.
activation will be on Falls.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so I think it will be helpful to the businesses, it'll be helpful to traffic trying to get through, it'll be helpful to people that go, oh, there's an event, because they can actually drive through and see it and not go, what's this huge detour?
Yeah. That would be nice.
But like looking forward to this reactivation of this park, we could then potentially move
A lot.
all of the activity off the streets
Mhm.
and into the park.
And I like the idea of like a farmer's market there too.
Sure, right, well, it can help generate revenue for the city, it also attracts people to the downtown businesses, so obviously they're stakeholders in this. And I think we wanna do some kind of a community outreach exercise to try to engage the communities to get support. Right, but obviously, when you do that, you're gonna get all kinds of crazy ideas, frankly. And also some very strong opinions, and that kind of slows it down and complicates it, but primarily, what we want to do is first, figure out what we want this thing to do. What do we want this park space to do, right? I mean, it's, how are we gonna use it? And we need to identify essentially criteria that we can give to our consultant
Mhm.
to help them come up with concepts that meet our objectives. Okay? So, like I said, we'll get started eventually, probably this summer, engage a consultant. And I think we're gonna try some more closing of King Street and maybe run some ideas.
I was gonna close it for the flowers, the blossoms. Was it chocolate part, so I closed it.
Forgive me for
As soon
asking.
as it
Pioneer
starts.
out.
Yeah, pioneer.
Feedback.
I kind of suspected that I was gonna leave that up to you
Well,
guys.
Smoky
No,
Joe's is
I got
not
permission to do whatever I want. so
necessarily,
I'm just gonna do it when it makes sense.
well, I think Jim is about done. He wants
didn't
to
want it.
sell
No,
he wants to sell Smoky Joe's, he wants to get out.
The
Oh,
food truck thing
okay.
again.
And I think he's been talking to potential buyers, but I don't know where he's at with
I
the process.
gotcha.
He's a little grumbly about things changing, but
Gotcha.
he sees the sands.
There's someone I
He
know
sent me a
that
letter.
wants to
Yeah,
buy.
I'm just
yeah,
curious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cause it's right there.
it would be nothing but good for him,
Yeah,
but
the
you
whole
know,
idea is to generate revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For local businesses.
Like,
Right, there is someone
annoyance
that is
on
really
getting
trying to get a hold of him
work
to
done,
buy
and I think
Smoky
that
Joe's
really-
and not tear it down for housing or anything like Jim had wanted to at one point, but
Yeah.
to do something activated, but he's being a little quiet, but
Okay.
he, Jeff's right, he has been interested in getting out of.
He complained about us closing the road too.
Oh, he was very
I'm
upset.
sure.
Well, it was a
Even
problem
though-
for the waste management, it was an issue and his staff person.
The one person said that they wanna park right in front
I
on
know.
city parking spots, and I said, don't you have a private parking lot? And they said, yeah, but it's dark, and I said. Doesn't really sound like a us problem, but
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Now you said you wanted to do some kind of like community outreach, is that to gather input into what this might look
I
like?
think
the
we'll roll it
design?
into the consultant's process, right, and have them lead the outreach effort.
Okay.
We don't have the staff to do a full-on public outreach, right? And that's what they do, right? That's.
They design parks, so they can
consultants.
kind of look at it and say, ooh, here's like 3, 4, or 5 options that you guys can consider.
Yeah, or they can partner with a PR
Everywhere.
firm,
They
right?
did.
to
Jim
run
That's our host plan, this is typically
No, I mean,
called a
like what
parks
they
plan.
did, where they had,
Yeah,
you
it'll be
fill
like
out
that.
questionnaires and they had an open house.
It'll be smaller, it'll probably be like, here's a list of functions that this playground can do, that staff has shrunk the list down into the feasible options. Put your sticky note on the ones that make the most sense in this area to you,
Yeah.
and then we collect up all that data and we.
Like for instance, maybe a playground play structure is not what we want for this
Yeah.
downtown
Yeah.
park. there might be people that say they want it, but maybe it's more of a.
A merry-go-round or something. Somebody wants to do a
About that.
merry-go-round or
Oh,
something.
wow.
Don't say that.
If someone wants to get rid of it,
Yeah.
he wants to give us,
Yeah.
give it to us, and we're like, no,
Maintain that.
we don't want it, yeah, we don't wanna maintain it.
But then we take all that data and we go and we basically ask them to design a playground.
Yeah, we wanna take the first cut at what we want it to be, right?
At Listening Post?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always call these charrettes, but yeah, however you wanna go about it,
You
but
can have like a sign made of like fast signs and then people like put Post-its all over and like
oh,
what
we
they
just had
want to
like
do.
the meetings, we
Oh,
would have
yeah.
like an open house on Railroad Park, improvements or improvement
Yeah.
plan or something.
Yeah.
Redevelopment.
Typically, yeah,
Mhm.
redevelopment.
I
Whatever it
know,
is.
I know this isn't directly related to what we're talking about, but I wanna throw it out there. Has there been any thought about what to do with Dan's configured back-end parking spots along railroad, along the main drag there, or is that
You talking about these?
still seen as
On Railroad Place?
successful on Railroad Avenue?
Oh, you're talking about the
The-
on
the
Railroad
angle,
Avenue.
the
Because I see
parking.
That's a
confused,
washout.
every time I go by there, there's confused drivers, people
Yeah.
park the
On
wrong
the
way.
weekend.
People simply do not get it
No.
on how to park in there.
Well, I
So-
brought up putting it like carving in a groove right down the middle of the road. Cause that's what Falls City was gonna propose.
But
Great separation.
but that is
Great
a
separation,
parking
an active
yeah.
bump, yeah.
matter that
Watch them a
relates
lot.
to your plan here.
So there's that issue, but then there's also if we're recreating this space to bring in more people, right, and have kind of more events.
Parking is an issue.
Where
Definitely.
do people park?
Well,
We
now
actually
I'm
have a
gonna,
lot of
yeah, but now it's my turn to be like, we've just identified, we have over 300 parking spots in downtown.
Wow.
Not including King Street, all free, we need to get some more ADA, but we do not have a parking shortage. What we have is a shortage of people that wanna get out of their cars and
Walk anywhere.
walk.
Yeah.
So that's the problem that we.
You County Ridge parking or something like that, is that what they're doing?
No, like
teasing.
legit, Dana counted, we have over, I mean, all the things on Railroad Place, the United Methodist Church, things on Falls.
There's a lot of parking, I was
Yeah.
teasing,
Okay, well,
Like,
Jeff,
how wide
get
is
a
the
little,
exit,
get
you
a little
know?
mom crazy last week in planning commission.
if you park at Gateway or something and
Well, Gateway, yeah,
then you'd be adding like 300 extra spots. There's a
But
lot.
have any of you witnessed the confused?
yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Yeah, so we
It's-
actually
it's a
put new
cluster.
signage up last week or last year and people still don't understand it. They don't know it's illegal to cross a double yellow line.
Frankly, I've never really
Yeah.
seen it anywhere else. Like
The
that.
design, a back end?
The back end that way, I don't know,
There's
I don't even know where the
not enough room,
idea
like-
came from.
There's not enough room
Watch
otherwise
that,
to be
I
able
think
to like
required us to do
hold
it.
it straight to a spot or it would have to be parallel parking, would be the only alternative.
Which then would reduce our.
You could do head-in parking, but you know, then you got all kinds of problems with that one too. This is very similar to doing parallel parking, except you're just backing into a
Right.
angle, right?
If you know to do that.
Yeah, it makes sense in theory.
It's just the people crossing a double yellow line.
So just
Yeah.
let
Or trying
the
to
beast
turn
work itself out,
Yeah.
I guess.
We have
Okay.
signs that say do not
And we
cross.
can drive by and laugh.
Yeah, I mean, there's signs that say back in, it actually has a step-by-step, you know,
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
one, you
It's too
know,
much.
Turn it
signal,
like
number two, back in, number three,
Mike's in that,
enjoy
yeah.
downtown.
Okay, I thought I would bring it up to see what the mood was about
Yeah.
it.
Jeff, you're
So-
thinking this year you'll engage with like a landscape architect and start this conversation?
That's my plan, if I can do it. You know, we have limited staff, so you
I know,
know,
we all
it's,
are,
we're
we-
being very ambitious, but I wanna get started on this if I can.
Yeah.
Start the process. And so you guys will be right at the center of helping us move this forward.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, there's, like I said, there's a lot of stakeholders, so the Merchants Association is gonna weigh in, the railroad, the model railroad guys, they wanna get in on it. So there's gonna be a lot of input and it's bound to be, you know, a little snarly at the beginning, but it'll be good when we finish.
Cool.
Take your medicine before your ice cream.
Okay, are we ready to move on to the special events?
Oh.
Oh, can you just show us the river?
Okay, let's just see that, yeah.
Okay, so
See, I'm not the only one.
I cruised through, here's
I'm only
downtown, right?
half-pictured either.
I thought it was in the
Coming up,
city.
and then,
I'm like, wait, that's odd.
so this is the last house that's still built.
That's the yellow one,
So the
okay.
trail comes over, it loops out a ways. and it comes back, that's the White House that was demoed.
Yeah.
It stays parallel to this. Stays parallel to this, all the way down. And it kind of starts to go wider here. So here's that spur I was talking about. This is a high point. So the spur would cross here and it actually goes to that trestle on the other side of the river. So in theory, if you imagine this is high, the trail kind of comes up, it meets this high point. The trail goes this way and it crosses this way over two pedestrian bridges like boardwalks. They're crossing wetlands and then it kind of does this loop out here and comes back.
Oh.
It doesn't cross the creek anymore. At one point in theory was going to, but it's not going to.
And then it'll remain like in the woods, it'll be.
It stays in the woods, it's a
green.
soft surface trail.
It's kind of like a mini of what they've done along I-90 in Bellevue.
Yep.
Okay, mini,
Yeah,
mini, that's so
mini,
huge.
mini, yeah.
Yeah, mini, mini.
And it comes back to here.
Oh.
Yeah, and right in here, it's actually gonna be like kind of a bioswale and soft surface trail. There is gonna have to be some sidewalk here.
Mhm.
Just because of some other things. Anyway, we're not going to.
And the water
Sorry, where
from
does
the
it
river
start?
doesn't
Where in
come.
the city?
It starts right here. It basically will
Lost
reconnect
House.
up to this sidewalk.
Fun.
And then
On like days when the river is really high, it doesn't flood into
No,
that
it's
area.
above.
define really high.
I've seen where that
Yeah,
house
yeah.
was,
Yeah.
and like, I mean,
It can
literally,
get-
at one point, the water was up to
Yeah.
that house at one point.
Oh, yeah, no, and it's
The White
actually been
House,
over the road
Yes,
there.
that's what
The water there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it can't, it's
This whole
possible,
area is
but
inundated.
it's mostly gonna be above it.
okay.
And all of our harder infrastructure can withstand it.
Mhm.
So the boardwalk, for example.
There's a trail in
It's not
Sammamish
so
River in
much.
Redmond that when it rains a lot, it floods and it just, they close
Drains.
it and it recedes and drains. It's probably smells great, but you know,
Yeah.
they.
We did like a bunch of scour analysis to verify that the river
Oh, sure.
wouldn't like erode it, things like that, so.
Since they lowered the weir, we
Cool.
haven't had
Yep.
that huge inundation flooding that we've had in the past. Not that it won't happen again, it certainly will, we just, can't predict.
That's cool.
So that's right, and I actually just went through some pretty big permitting hurdles last week, so. Pretty exciting. It's this 10 years in at this point.
And you guys know about Town Center Phase 3,
Oh,
you don't, maybe we should talk about that a little bit here real quickly.
this is a longer, the tooth one.
This is one that's kind of been in the works for a while, since I've been here, actually, it's been in the works. But it's expensive and it's gonna take a while to get it. Well, I don't know, I think we're moving ahead with trying to get more funding for it, and we'll see how that goes.
Town Center Phase 3.
So, Town Centers Phase 1 and 2 and 2A, those were basically the kind of the rejuvenation of the downtown core, the town
Yeah.
center.
Put the new lights in, the new lights, the boardwalk was too.
Remember the lawsuit that we were embroiled in for years and all that?
Straight to the high points, Jeff. Yeah.
But basically all that area around the depot and falls and all of those areas downtown, where we
Boardwalk.
redid all the sidewalks and streets and everything, that was all done with PSRC grant funding. And so this is phase 3, which is another PSRC, we've been given about $900,000 to do the design, we're about halfway through that. We're looking for the construction funding now. And we've split it up into more phases, 2 phases essentially, but it starts at Northern Street, right there. And right now, there's currently a trail, but it's not ADA accessible, and it is, it's a pretty nasty trail. And so we would like to make this a better ADA accessible route that connects town center to the falls. Essentially, the first phase of it's just going to Railroad Park there, Gateway Park.
That's just like the running path, the walking path?
Yeah,
front of the train.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's the one that's lower than the road when you're driving by.
Right.
Yeah, like running on it.
It'll still be lower than the road, but it'll be higher than it is, and it'll be a raised platform.
Not all of it, but a lot of it would be a boardwalk.
Yeah, a lot of it'll be a
A lot of it.
boardwalk, yeah. And then
New
it has a
bridge.
new bridge, and the bridge is what's the challenge because it's very expensive. I mean, even a full bridge is expensive.
But that bridge is soggy.
And the bridge is,
The current one?
It's slippery, yeah.
Yeah.
it's
It is.
it's not great. It's an old.
It's like an eighties bridge.
respect
you know,
that.
It's
like
a rail car. It's an old rail car.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They took the trucks off of an old rail car and they used the chassis from a rail car to build a
Really?
bridge.
And it's
I'm just
spaced
talking
over
about
creeks
just the
out
slabs
posts.
that you go on, like you were
Yeah.
saying, yeah, sometimes when it gets
Slippery.
kind of wet, it's.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, but the piers are actually in good shape, but that they're all made out of wood. They're in the channel.
They're in, yeah. In the creosote.
And they're made of creosote.
Railroad
so-
ties.
Right, so, we'll fix all of that in that process. And then, there's gonna be a lot of improvements to the system in that, it has greater connectivity, it's a multi-use path. It will connect all the way to the bridge. We're gonna hold off on that last segment where it connects to the bridge because there's a possibility that WashDOT's gonna replace that bridge in the next. We don't know, but it could be sooner rather than later. If you talk to
That's been
WashDOT,
discussed before.
yeah, they tell you that, no, that bridge is fine, but they know full well that thing's about to collapse. And maybe they're just waiting for it to fall into the
So now I
river.
could drive.
There's a lot of bridges in this
I
nation
know.
that you don't wanna drive
Yeah.
on, yeah.
I'm gonna ask him for those
Isn't it?
inspection reports.
Too bad that didn't get earmarked in the last
Started.
administration.
Mm. But if we can get this first phase of that
Falls.
done, in the next few years, then, the rest of it is actually gonna be a lot simpler to do. Especially if they replace the bridge.
Yeah, and it depends on the alignment of the bridge then.
That would be a
Where's that?
nasty project,
This is
like
railroad.
closing that
Is that-
access point.
Well, no, what they would do, they would build a parallel bridge. They would build a bridge right next to it.
Oh, just like what they did with the I-90 bridge.
Like they do every bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Right, they
double down.
build it
So you mean
Okay.
they would be building the new bridge next to it,
Right next to it.
and then they would dismantle the old bridge, or would
Yeah.
they?
Probably
Probably done.
expand it.
Oh,
Yeah.
fascinating, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Of course, there's issues to work out there with the drive and everything else.
Because they
Permitting on
have
this
to
challenge.
land, they'd have to get land to be able to.
Yeah,
Well, we own the land, there's.
but if they were to do it, they'd get the piers completely out of the river. It'd be like a big concrete,
Take the old bridge out of the water.
Yeah, it'd be bigger,
Did you guys know
broader.
that the bridge is in the,
It's just
one
really
from the
expensive.
thirties is in the water? If you look, can you see it down?
No.
Really?
If you
Yeah,
stand on
if you
that
cross the
bridge in
bridge,
summer,
if you look, you can see the
It's
old
like
bridge.
you can see it in that
Picture
photo.
there.
I
You
think it
can
was
see
in
it right
nineteen
there.
39 or something.
It's right there. That's the
Oh,
bridge.
my goodness.
That's terrible.
It is terrible.
Still there?
It's kinda cool, actually, it's funny, I ride my bike on this bridge a lot, you can see it, and then.
You can
You
see
can
it
have a
sticking
wall.
up in the water sometimes, depending on the,
A level of it, yeah.
It'll never go away.
we'll just top the old one. Boom, double.
The environment might have something to say.
Yeah.
And so Puget Sound is on.
Oh, well, thanks for letting me know.
100,000
Yeah.
tires that they put in there. like,
Oh, you got pictures of it. There you go.
Did
Yeah.
you hear that in the news? That was just recent, but
I believe it.
there's like 100,000 tires in the Puget Sound. They were trying to make a reef. And they're having to pull them all out now.
Oh.
I saw that in the news today or yesterday.
Was that like a seventies idea or
Oh,
something? Yeah.
yes, it was a long time ago.
You know,
They were
There's
trying.
tires from cars that they were trying
and
to
the
like. make a reef.
toilets.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
They just let it collapse or it.
No, I
collapse?
collapsed suddenly.
You
I think something floated down the river.
rebuilt the revet.
And one thing
Your house best.
tangled,
I don't know,
Wait, you'll
like
take it
15
down.
cars.
The Snoqualmie River.
Wow.
They built the revet.
this time,
cars.
yeah, 1930s or
Or
whatever.
maybe it, oh yeah, maybe it.
1933.
It was built 2 years earlier. Wow.
Wow.
Oh my
It was a
gosh.
fire.
It was only 2 years old.
An oil
That's what it
tanker
said.
got tangled in and caught on fire and it collapsed it, yeah.
Oh, wow.
There it is. Oh, yeah.
But yes, you can see it.
Wow.
Oh, so they had to drive,
Around.
Meadowbrook Bridge.
oh boy.
That's what I'm saying.
Fun
If they
times.
were to shut that down and then, oh, wow,
Yeah.
just try getting out when school's getting out. I can't even.
I feel like I'm gonna have to take my kids across the bridge now to see this. You can't see it when you're driving.
No, yeah, you
Look
can't
for it.
really walk.
Look for it.
Yeah, that's
There's
nice.
so many cool little things actually hidden in here because of the mill, like the sycamore row, the sycamore trees from the former.
Yeah.
Guys, come on.
So that sounds
Find that.
exciting.
I don't know what you speak of. Find that.
Yeah.
We're learning so much.
Yeah, I know.
You'll hear
It's like
from me,
Citizens Academy.
later this year at some point.
So
that,
I'm
yeah.
here.
It is summer. I'm hoping to get
Summer.
started.
I'm riding.
All right,
So
We'll
what
let
this
you
road
guys know.
is,
We'll keep you
Did
up
you
to
say
speed.
part of the walkway was gonna be affordable?
On Town Center Phase 3.
Yeah, Jeff, why do you wanna make it, I
Oh, yeah,
mean,
that's
why?
true.
these are sycamore, there used to be houses here.
Impacts.
Oh, you
really?
see houses?
So it's floodway,
Uh-huh.
right? And so currently
That's what we're
the
at.
existing path is down in the floodway and the new one will be in the
Actually,
floodway too. But
IG?
to minimize
I think
impact,
it's
if you
IG.
put it on a boardwalk, then the impacts are reduced.
That was
Impacts to the environment, to the ground.
To wetlands, to floodway impacts, those things, you have to mitigate anything you do inside a floodway or in a wetland.
Yeah.
Right.
that's it.
And so we,
Wow, look at all those houses.
So those are the houses
the
that
mill
used to
houses,
be
right?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the
Wait,
sycamore
where-
trees.
Those are,
Those are-
those are all part of Williams Edition.
So this is on Reading.
And there used to be houses.
So here's the bridge.
I met the guy, he said his uncle planted those trees.
Yeah.
This guy named
Oh, so
Reinig.
there was a house.
Why did
by
they take
every
them?
tree.
And they named
Every
the
tree,
street after
yeah, there's.
It's Otto,
It was Otto
he's
What are
my,
people?
Is that our cue?
my family tree.
Oh, really?
Otto,
Do you know Nick Reinig then?
Oh,
Don't.
yeah.
No, they're still there, the trees.
No, he's
The
younger.
house.
Oh, they went over to Williams Edition
Well, I'd have to talk
All
to
the
him
homes
to,
that are right
cause it was
here.
through my mom's side, through.
In
The-
downtown, a lot of the homes downtown are old work.
He says they're still there.
That
House this area?
It's still there. and his
They just
family's
got
still-
They
Yeah.
moved
Oh,
them.
wow.
And just picked them up, they drove them across.
No, when Otto passed in the early
A lot of the houses
seventies,
downtown are the old
how mom and I
houses.
got to Europe to meet my dad on business,
Really?
was through, yeah. Her
Oh my gosh,
first
yeah.
house that she got, so.
That's the when the mill houses there.
Yeah.
So those houses are all over in Williams Edition now.
Yeah, they're right, here, I can show you one. This yellow house is one. That yellow house.
Oh, that's your street.
Oh,
Oh, you mean
those are
you
all-
mean the one that's to the, as you're coming
Yeah.
into town on 34th, you go
Yeah.
left?
There's a whole
I've
This is
never
new.
seen-
those old mill
I've
houses.
never gone into that little
That's
neighborhood.
Newton there.
So there's a whole bunch down here.
If
Yeah.
you go down that road.
Are we heading
That's
towards
the road I've
Christmas
never
lights?
heard, yeah.
You go down
So
that
down there,
road, those are
down-
all old mill houses.
Oh, I
Not all
will
of
drive
them,
down
but most
that
of
road.
them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Huh,
That
Wow.
why did they take them off of Riding Road?
is just
They
cheaper to move
They
them.
gave the houses away to anybody who wanted them.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they just walked them across the river and planted them over there on Williams Edition.
When they closed the mill.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
This bridge is the one that was, it's a rail bridge,
yeah,
and this is the one that's really close to Park Avenue.
yeah.
The one that
that's
causes
right.
all that weird,
right, yeah,
here, if you're looking at King
that's
County
right.
Parcel Viewer. You can see all the chaos of the former right of way. See all this stuff?
Oh, yeah, that's where that one house is. It's partly in the city right away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so all this chaos is from rails,
Those old
and
days.
bridges and stuff like that, like this.
It's like a history lesson.
Yeah, I didn't,
Yeah.
who knew?
Anyway,
Oh, that's super interesting, thanks.
It's gotta have the right people at the table.
Okay.
Okay,
events.
what would you like to say? Just moving into April, April's always a really busy month, we've got a teen flashlight hunt at Jeannie Hansen, then the little kid hunt. So Easter's on Sunday the 20th, the little kid hunt is on Saturday morning the 19th, Centennial, and the teen flashlight hunt is at Jeannie Hansen on the 18th. Last year, things were gone literally in 3 seconds for the teen hunt, so. No, literally. you
3
turn it-
seconds?
3 seconds, and so I've gotta buy more stuff so that there's stuff there. And then the downtown merchants will do a hunt. We've also got, the volunteer appreciation event is April 30th.
Mark your calendars.
Yeah, that's going on, and then,
where's that?
Meadowbrook, we did it at Meadowbrook. And
Oh, that's right.
then,
Everything's always here.
Arbor Day or Arbor Day, your team is doing Arbor Day, I think, is it the 25th or the 26th? Yeah, but that's going on that month as well,
Yeah,
and
Green Colony and
then
Arbor Day combined.
April's just a loaded month. And then the Arts Commission in March, we're doing a new thing on the 29th. So in July, they do a plein air pop-up paint out. This is a plein air pop-up, like a class demo with all the beautiful cherry trees in Railroad Park. I know we're not UW campus, but we're mini, so we're gonna do a little pop-up event on that date.
What day again?
That's the 29th, Saturday, the 29th.
29th of
And
what?
March.
of March, and I haven't I've been leaving when it's dark out at night, but this morning I drove by and I can see the tulips are starting to come up around the holiday tree, and so we added. I think last year we did 900, and this year the guys added 500 more bulbs of tulips there. Yeah, that's events. Another thing in my realm that supports Jeff's team or that his team is doing. And I know you've talked a little bit about this, Paul, in the past, is the wayfinding signage, so it's the green post with the turquoise slats. Actually pulled over and talked to Dalton today.
Mhm.
Looks like we might have to order some more, there might be some that are missing to the order. But he's gonna get the whole, he's about 50% of the way through system wide, and so that's a long time coming. So that's a good thing. And some parks will be noted on those signs as well, just some of the bigger parks, Jane, that's in the community. So, yeah, we're making some progress. We're all a lean team here in the city, but we're getting her done.
That's good. Do you need any help? Do you need volunteers for it?
I think I'm good, but that's nice to know. It's nice to know. I've got a staff person who's just thrilled, Miles. Miles is gonna be the bunny this year. Miles is, he's like 25, he's a thrill, he's just a lot of energy.
He's so
And I was like, hey, would you mind being the bunny? And he's like, okay, go and do that, Nicole.
He's gonna put the bunny costume on?
Yeah, he sounds like, yeah, I think I can do that.
That's it, and then it actually added to
Yeah.
it, he's gonna take some visits around some of the businesses, and so I'll be his bunny handler,
Okay,
but
perfect.
Do
he's.
you need any federal
Yeah.
grant money? Cause I might know someone.
Federal grant money,
Yeah.
I think,
Put it at the bunny?
yeah, that's been kind of dwindling, yeah. That state, county money,
It's like, I think a grant or something like here, it went away.
yeah, so that's the spring, and then we'll move it into summer with,
Yeah.
Big Truck Day and movies and music and
Fun.
all the things, and yeah,
Awesome.
we can do more about that in May for updates.
Okay. All right, you guys, so, future discussion, items of commissioner interest. Sounds like elections, if I may.
Hmm.
Prepared with your speech.
And then creating a priority list.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then, I was waiting for if either of you wanted to kind of add anything. Yeah, so if you want to, generate some thoughts on your own, kind of priority lists or, really items, projects of interest
Mhm.
that might work to just kind of put forth. Anything you have agenda wise, if you could get it to me by the Wednesday before we meet next, because that's when I then turn it over to Jeff.
Okay.
And you like it, Dina likes to have the agenda by Thursday.
Thursdays they go out.
Thursdays they go out, so if you want it by
Give it to me on Tuesday or Wednesday, it'd be
Tuesday,
fine.
okay, so Wednesday midday.
Wednesday'd be fun.
So if you guys could get it to me maybe by Tuesday night, that'd be helpful.
So the next meeting then is May 13th, is that correct?
So, yep, that's the second Tuesday, 5 p.m.
I wouldn't mind an update on the why, no matter how short it might be.
Oh, the why.
of the wine.
Yeah,
wine stand.
we're applying for the aquatics grant.
So that
That
would-
has to be done by April 3rd.
Yep.
We'll submit it, we'll know in September if we won. The city's hoping we'll get lots of money and we think just based on what awards we've seen in the past that it will be enough.
Okay,
But then we've also submitted a grant, essentially a grant application for legislative funding, which is kind of like an appropriation that, you know, legislators can give you if you're real close, they can get you over the hump. They consider themselves to be last in money. So we're hoping, we asked them for $5 million and I think that's way ambitious, but you know.
For an $8 billion over.
We got about a $5 million
Yeah.
shortfall, if we could get $1 million or 2 million from the aquatics grant, then that gets us fairly close and maybe the legislature would throw in, you know, to get us over the hump, but we don't know. But we're going after everything we can get, but
Sure.
I don't know, it's really close, but I don't know if it's gonna work or not. They may decide to bond a little bit, but I doubt it. You never know,
Oh,
if they're there, if we're that close, if we're $1 million, $2 million away. They might just say,
If you want me to show up to the council meeting and turn the screws.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah,
You never know.
I-
Yeah.
made my opinion known before.
well, that's what it's gonna take, actually, it's gonna take people from the community demanding,
Yeah.
and they're not getting it, that's just not happening.
Right in.
Yeah, no,
What is it called when you convince a bunch of people to show up to council meetings and like fill all the seats? It has some sort of name.
Right.
It's called like filling the stands or.
Torchlit.
Anyway.
All right,
I
thank you.
told a bunch of high
Good
school
to
students
hear.
when they went to
Those
the
sound like
walkout
good
way.
things.
And I was just bring every
Can you remind me
kid
the
now.
last one, the school was
Fill the
called?
floor. They won't vote no if you do that.
This survey, we did a survey last year about this time, was the last
Okay.
survey.
I filled out a survey at one point.
Oh,
Oh.
But it was.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
and they did give us.
okay, you know what, it's on
It was
the.
on the time.
So wait,
Daylight savings time, 'cause it's usually 6 o'clock when it does it.
Okay, so there being no further business to come before the commission, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn. Anybody second?
Second that motion.
Great.
Third.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Thank you too much.